Okay. Okay. 6:06 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are chilly this morning. Now, we're off and running. We're ready for a good show. Can't wait. We got a lot of ground to cover today. I mean, the news is all over the place lately. I was hoping to be hyper-focused on one or two things throughout the redistricting session, but no can do. It's all over the place. Saints have a new head coach. We'll talk about that. Joey Burrow is in the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that. COVID is trending downward. For sure, we're talking about that. The Ronald Greene cover-up continues to unravel. We're going to start with that in a minute. On the guest list today, we're supposed to have Jacob Hester on at 6:35. That might change. Don't know. But the Saints have hired Dennis Allen, promoted him from defensive coordinator up to head coach. Hopefully we'll talk with Jake at 6:35. We got Scott Kirkpatrick from Crisis, CRISIS is the acronym. They are a group looking at the traffic crisis in Baton Rouge, or the capital region, which is where the C and the R come from in Crisis. $500 million being earmarked for the budget to be directed towards a new Mississippi River Bridge. State budget, that is. We'll talk with Scott. We've had him on a couple times about this. It's getting to be a little bit more real, but I'm still at a point where I don't feel like I could put my full faith into the idea of it actually happening. I will have crossed the bridge 3 or 4 times before I believe it's happening. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul going to join me at 7:35. He'll be on the hotline this morning. What are we talking with Chief Paul about? Well, I think it was week before last, or it might have been last week. Attorney General Jeff Landry held a press conference and had numerous law enforcement officials from around the capital area in that press conference, Chief Paul among them. And the topic of that press conference was teaming up the law enforcement end with the judicial end in order to get somewhere fighting crime. And there was a lot of, I know it's an overused word, or at least it used to be, a lot of synergy in the room. What's to come of it? What can we actually expect to see from it? Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul at 7:35. In our 8 o'clock hour, we will talk about this Ronald Greene, state police cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. Chris Nakomoto from WBRZ set to join us at 8:15 to talk about that. And then we'll wrap up the guest list with Congressman Troy Carter at 8:40. The U.S. Labor Secretary was in New Orleans yesterday. We have been looking at a workforce crisis in Louisiana. It has been a mixed bag when it comes to getting people back to work post-pandemic or wherever we're at within the pandemic. Congressman Carter was rolling with the Labor Secretary yesterday. We'll see what he's got to say. A couple of other tidbits we'll cover with the Congressman when he's on. But to lead things off this morning, got to get back around to the story about the state police cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. Yes, we'll talk to Chris Nakomoto at 8:15. The story, per WBRZ, a trove of text messages and emails obtained by WBRZ's investigative unit through a public records request shows key members of Governor John Bel Edwards' staff, lawmakers, and those at the top of Louisiana State Police were all talking amongst themselves about the Ronald Greene case as WBRZ stories played on television weekly throughout 2021. Some messages indicated a need to improve the image of state police amid growing controversy over how the agency handled Greene's death years earlier. The emails are thousands of pages long, show the massive force of the general public writing to the governor expressing outrage that no one had been arrested tied to the Greene case. Last week, Governor Edwards held a news conference categorically denying having any involvement in the investigation and lack of criminal charges thus far. The text messages, and I haven't read all of them yet because it's a lot. The text messages, I don't know if it's a matter of confirmation bias or not. But if you read them wanting to believe that the governor is guilty and needs to be hung out to dry, that's what you're going to walk away with. If you read them wanting to believe that the governor, like he said in his press conference, is just so innocent he wouldn't know how to cover something up, then that's what you're going to walk away believing with. If you're somewhere down the middle, I think it opens up more questions than it answers. Which is why we'll bring on Chris Nakomoto at 8:15. He's dug through a lot more of this than I have. We got texts from the governor, texts from his attorney, a couple members of his communications staff as well. I got to tell you, my biggest takeaway from what I did read, what I was able to get to last night, my biggest takeaway, it wasn't the texts that were sent by the governor's staff. It was the questions left unanswered via the text thread. If you see a text message come in from somebody on, I don't know, let's just pick a date at random, and I'm not quoting this, I'm just pulling this out of thin air. If you see a text come in on July 10th with no response, and then the next text doesn't come in until, say, July 26th, and it has a response, but it's about a completely different topic and completely innocuous, nobody left that sitting in their inbox for 16 days, which suggests, and again, it all depends on where you're at on the spectrum of how much you think the governor's guilty or anybody on his team. It suggests that rather than respond via text, which can be screen grabbed and sent to, I don't know, WBRZ's investigative unit via public records request, rather than handling it like that, things were taken offline. Was it ignored? Was it not seen? Or was it taken offline to be handled where there wasn't a record of it? Don't have answers to that. Like I said, more questions have arisen than have been answered. And every question that looks like it's about to be answered just brings up 5 more questions. We'll continue to cover it. We'll pick it back up when we have Chris Nakomoto on at 8:15. Right now, though, we're due up for a break. Before we take that break, need to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. You know where to find them. They're on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, just east of Bluebonnet. They are on Plank Road up in Zachary. Either location gets the job done. Either location you can find by calling 768-9898. 768-9898. Doug and his team over at Complete Collision Center pride themselves on making sure they know the latest techniques to fix your car, making sure they have all the techniques to find hidden damage and get you and your family back onto the road safely. Safely. They've got the iCar Gold Class certification. That level of certification does not come easy, and it puts you in the top 15% of body shops nationwide. Like when you roll up in Complete Collision Center or get towed into Complete Collision Center, once you arrive, you know you are among the best 15% around nationwide. Want to learn more about it? Check out CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Quick break, coming back with sports next. I'm not going to get to any women's basketball highlights, and I didn't send you any anyway, so. I'll get to the LSU stuff, though, for sure. Beep, ba, ba, da, doop, ba, beep, ba, beep, ba, 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 ba. Yep. Do I? .617 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So last night on the road, LSU taking on the Ole Miss Rebels at Ole Miss. Kim Mulkey's Tigers pull out a 68-64 win. A solid performance by the Tigers last night. Well, I should say a solid performance by 7 of the Tigers last night. Only 7 Tigers played. Faustina Fua led the way scoring-wise with 20 points. Alexis Morris had 17. Kayla Pointer had 16. Jalen Cherry had 7. And Autumn Newby had 6. You also saw Awa Trossi coming off the bench, as did Hannah Gusters. And that was it, y'all. That was it. Not a whole lot of depth from this Tiger team. But as long as they're pulling out wins now, that's fine. Just looking ahead towards where they get towards the tournament might be a little bit different. Next up for the Tigers will be, I want to say they're at, where are they at? Oh, they're home February 10th, hosting Georgia, 7:30 p.m. Your tip-off Thursday night. Pregame will begin at 7. So LSU men got off to their best start in 20 years and then just have completely hit the skids. They'll be playing tonight at Texas A&M. LSU beat the Aggies 70-64 for their last win, but Coach Will Wade says the Tigers have to play a lot better if they want to pick up this victory.
We're going to have to be a lot sharper. They lead the league in turnovers forced and steals, so we're going to have to be clean with the ball. That's obviously been a big issue for us all season, and in particular the last few games. So we need to clean that up if we're gonna give ourselves a shot on the road.
Injuries have played a part of this, but ultimately Wade is claiming responsibility.
We're out of rhythm. We're out of sync. And we've got to find something to ignite us, to get us back in rhythm and get us back in sync. So the health is a big part of why we're not in rhythm and not in sync. But yeah, at the end of the day, I certainly have to do a better job. I'm the one in charge of the program.
Here comes the Fox Business Report. I'll pick that back up on the back end. Is Clemson really favored over North Carolina tonight? Excuse me. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to burp right in your ear there, YouTube. Coming up on 624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Not quite done with sports. Actually, this segment and the next segment, they're like sports-ish. But to put a button on what we're talking about with LSU, the team's in trouble right now. I was talking in the last segment about LSU women needing to get a little more depth before hitting the tournament. And if you're the men, at this point, you're worried about even making it after losing six out of 7. One of the keys for turning things around, from Will Wade's perspective, is keeping opponents from going on extended runs. So where they're at right now, they get in the hole, and then they have to dig themselves out of the hole. So they'll get back where they fill the hole, but they can't get back on solid ground after that because here's Will Wade.
If we could minimize the damage early on and not, and let it be a 8-0 run as opposed to a 16-0 run, then we'd probably reap some rewards from fighting back at the end.
All this plays into how you manage the game within the game. How do you manage the game within the game? And this isn't about play calling, which LSU's offense doesn't move around a whole lot. But Tigers are back at it tonight. Interestingly enough, they're still a favorite on DraftKings. Looking at my DraftKings app right now, LSU's -2 at Texas A&M. Now, tradition tells you never bet against a streak, right? So if they've lost 3 in a row, they're on a losing streak. You don't bet against the streak. But what is the streak for real? Is it the losing streak? Or Will Wade has never lost more than 3 in a row? LSU -2 at Texas A&M. The over-under's at 131. I got to tell you, if it was, 70-64 last time out? That suggests the over. If last time out they already got 134. And LSU's defense has been giving up more points this time around, although offensively it's been a struggle. Anyway, tip-off is tonight on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. We're going to talk a little bit about Dennis Allen in our next segment. NFL hires abound. The Saints have picked up their coach in promoting Dennis Allen from defensive coordinator to head coach. The Texans have hired Lovie Smith. We're going to talk about both of those hires predominantly. Oh, by the way, tip-off tonight, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. So pregame will start at 5:30 on Eagle 98.1. Back to the NFL. The Saints have hired Dennis Allen. It's a smart hire. It keeps continuity. And after having Sean Payton at the helm for that long, you have to want for the continuity. I'm not going to dive into it fully here, but think about it. Think about the way we saw how LSU went from Les Miles to Ed Ogeron. You could have had an overhaul of the program after Les Miles left. But with the continuity that was there and the reinvigoration of energy and spirit and unbelievable recruiting that brought Joe Burrow to town, among others, it led to the best season in the history of college football. I mean, dismantled from there, although there were contributing factors. But that continuity was a part of it. You didn't overhaul the entire roster. And where the Saints are at right now, within their organization, God, I would have loved to have seen Eric Bieniemy get the gig. Kansas City's offensive coordinator. With the continuity that's already there, you kind of want to hang on to a winning program and a successful program as best you can. It is Super Bowl week, which means so much focus on the Bengals and Rams this week. Joe Burrow, in just his second year in Kansas City, was in front of the media yesterday. Talked about a number of things. I want to start with this. There were a lot of questions around this past year's NFL draft. A lot of folks saying that the Bengals needed to take offensive linemen to protect Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow said, no, Jamar Chase is my guy. Go get my guy. They got his guy, and they're in the Super Bowl. Burrow talks about how much that built-in chemistry has helped out throughout the season.
whenever you have to get to know a new receiver, it's always tough at the beginning because you have to, learn how he's running routes. He needs to learn the velocity and placement of your footballs. And, we already had that coming in, and we already knew how to talk about the routes that we missed, and we would get it corrected very quickly. So it's a big advantage when you already have a relationship with, a new receiver that you have.
Going from worst to first is they weren't worst in the league, but close. Going from where they were worst in their division to first is no small feat. What they've done this year has been truly, truly remarkable. So along the way, you've got to take stock. When did Joe Burrow know they were for real, for real?
I think when we went into Baltimore and won the way that we did early in the year, I think we knew that we could be a really good team. Early in the year, we weren't super consistent. We had, big wins and bad losses. And, as a young team, sometimes you're going to go through that. But, we came out the other side, and we've been playing our best football when it mattered most.
Let's talk about the stage of the Super Bowl, because that's going to be one of the ongoing topics of conversation throughout the week, probably so much that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, or at least it has in the past. Can Joe Burrow handle the stage? Is it too big for him? Are the lights too bright? One of the things that plays into that is when it comes to Super Bowl time, you get the most random garbage thrown into press conferences. You're not just talking about beat writers who want to know the latest about the X's and O's, want to know, what were you thinking on this play? What did you see? What did you not see? You get questions like, hey, Joe, when you were growing up, who was your celebrity crush?
Celeb crush growing up? I don't know. I don't know if I really ever had one.
No celeb crush. Favorite actress?
It's a tough question. I'm going to skip that one.
Good. And completely move on. Because if you're like the rest of us, and he's not built like the rest of us, but if you're like the rest of us, everything else that was asked, you can process and move on. But that's the question that's going to stick in your head for the rest of the week. Like somewhere around Sunday early afternoon when you're going through pregame warm-ups, you've got this rotation in your head of trying to narrow down who your celebrity crush was. It's like that awkwardness, that social awkwardness, when a waiter brings you your food and they say, enjoy your meal, and you say, you too. And then for the rest of the night, you're like, you too. Why did I say you too? He's not eating. And then you're just inside your own head. So if you're Joe Burrow, like, where are you at for your celeb crush all week long? 6:31, time for CBS News. Okay, what were you trying to tell me? Because I had, going into that segment, you were trying to tell me something. Was it about my next live read?
Yeah, you had.
Probably. Anna just texted asking, are the lives weird this morning?
They are. Yeah.
Okay.
You had BRPT, I think.
No, they rolled off. Go Slim. Josh had to load the logs the old-fashioned way, or the old way, he said. So things might be a little janky this morning. Yeah! Oh, I really want to take LSU tonight. Hey, YouTube, I haven't even hopped on yet this morning. I apologize. Half of my prep for the first half hour was on my phone. So Yo! Oh, nothing. How are you? So, we'll start with did they make the right call, keeping for continuity.
Okay.
And then we'll just get into all the racism.
Okay.
No, it's so with everything going on with Brian Flores, is there going to be increased scrutiny of anyone who hires a white coach is racist right now? Obviously, the answer is no.
Right.
But how are you?
Good.
How was Senior Bowl?
It was great. We had a great time. It was fun. Shows were easy.
I'd imagine just content piled on top of content. I love that kind of stuff. So I'll have that Thursday. The Louisiana Association of Business and Industry has their annual conference.
Yeah.
They're like, come on out. I'm like, okay, fill my roster. Yeah. So do you enjoy like the rest of being away from all the kiddos, or do you miss being out of the routine? There's no wrong answer there.
Yeah, my wife's such a stud. I really don't have a lot to do extra except coach.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy. I enjoyed like just a week of adultness. Me and T-Bob and Rivers, just hanging out. I never get a chance to go to dinner every night.
Yeah.
Got the cold pops here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always that weird because you're gonna have that little guiltiness in the back, you know.
You know you're gonna be in trouble at some point.
Right. Right. Even if you didn't do anything, it's not what you did; it's what the kids did while you weren't there to help.
100%.
Yup.
You just
Dude.
wait for it. Like, what day is it gonna come? Wednesday, probably.
Oh, hey, while we're on YouTube, we did the thing with the shock docs a couple weeks ago. Jake lived right down the street from the serial killer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what the hell, man?
I forgot about that.
Bro.
I forgot about that.
what is it with guys from your block terrorizing Florida?
Oh gosh, I forgot about that. He came in there.
Oh man, yeah. After I did the interview, I was like, I gotta go find out. Like, I funnel all things Shreveport to you. I need to divvy that up between you and Hunt.
And
But
it worked out though.
oh my goodness
It worked out for me.
gracious, I don't know how you do that. Like just there, but for the grace of God, right? Like,
And I was talking about that with my mom this week, and she was in town for Memphis's birthday. We were talking about it.
that's just nuts.
There's a new office coming. Still got a desk in the ground.
It's still in 150 pieces on the ground. I'm on step 7. I'm just never in there. I didn't want a desk to begin with. Like, literally, I just wanted a table and, like, something with some drawers in it, like a cabinet that I could keep all my stuff and, you know, I'm just never in there.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the last, it's been 3 weeks now?
Put together many of IKEA pieces of furniture.
Yeah, from the time that I moved in there, I've already put one together at the house.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not a matter of know-how. It's a matter of just when.
And more too.
Yeah, that plays into it. I don't know. Technically, if I wanted to, I would have an hour's worth of time today. At least an hour's worth of time, but I don't want to.
Right.
637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Time to talk a little Saints football as they've Moved defensive coordinator Dennis Allen up to the head coaching spot, the vacancy left by Sean Payton. Joining us now to talk about it from off the bench on 104.5 ESPN, Jacob Hester. Jake, welcome back, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I definitely, by the way, got to get on the producer Jake's soccer podcast. I forgot about it till I walked in here. He does a great job, and it's like the only place I can talk footy, so that's what I'm thinking about right now.
We're looking at launching a new segment called Footnotes.
Oh, okay.
It's in the works. It's in the works. We're working on it right now. It's not ready for prime time yet. But
Okay, so we're not here to talk Frank Lampard taking over Everton.
I don't know what you just said. Okay. Everton sounds like a team name, not a person.
For us.
Okay.
Is Everton a person or a team?
That's a team.
Okay.
It's been around since the 1800s.
I know Ted Lasso, and that's it.
We're getting there.
All right.
That's a step.
God, it's so terrible. Ted Lasso's awesome, by the way.
Oh.
I just meant soccer.
I thought
soccer
he
in
meant
general.
Ted Lasso was terrible,
No.
and I was about to get out. I mean, it's bad enough.
No. I mean, there's
okay.
the sport itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
it's fine.
So, Dennis Allen, we know he's been a head coach before. He's
Right.
filled as an interim head coach. That's what we do know. What don't we know?
Well, yeah, I mean, you do know that he was 4-28 as the Raiders head coach. That's obviously something that's going to be talked about from now until the first kickoff. We understand that. But we had Matt Flynn in 2 weeks ago, and he was on one of the Raiders teams that Dennis Allen was coaching, and he said, look, I was on the roster, so I don't feel like I'm saying anything bad. It was an awful roster. It was terrible. We didn't have a lot of good players. And if you look at it, during that time, Oakland was probably the worst ran franchise, and maybe all of sports, but certainly the NFL. It didn't matter who was going to be there. Like, you were going to struggle, and you were going to lose football games. So it's hard to judge him, but you have to remember it. You can't forget it because it was 4-28. But he's definitely someone that has grown, continued to grow. Maybe he wasn't ready. Still a young coach, right? So he had opportunities to go interview other places during this offseason. The Saints realized what they had in Dennis Allen, but I do credit them. I do think they did their homework. They did bring in candidates, and it was guys that have never been a head coach. It was guys like Doug Peterson who have won a Super Bowl. So I do think that even though DA was the guy that they wanted, and he was 90% going to be their guy, they wanted to make sure to fill in the blanks that they could bring in other people, interview other people. And with DA being back in place, you can just tell, like, that defense, that's their core. That's the elite side of the football. So they wanted to keep that the same. Now, the offensive staff, they've got all the question marks because you don't know who your quarterback is. You don't know the Michael Thomas situation. Alvin Kamara, obviously, now being arrested, like, you don't know that situation. The only thing that you can kind of rest on the offense is a couple of offensive linemen. So that side of the football has got more questions than anything. And the defense now kind of feels like it's still elite.
It is, but I mean, they're not going to be able to pitch shutouts. But from the offensive side of the football, yes, you're kind of putting that on the back burner. But at a time where the Saints have been offensive, most of Sean Payton's tenure, the last 2-3 years, has been all about the defense. How important was the continuity when retaining Allen? I looked at this in terms of when you've had this much success for this long, you don't have a need for an overhaul. Like, you just replace one guy and keep everything else in order.
So in the NFL, you have windows. You have windows that you're able to be successful. Now, the Saints have been able to keep that window open for a very long time. That doesn't happen very often, but I still believe they're in a window to be successful. They had a winning record this year. I know they didn't make the postseason, but look at what they did offensively, having to play 4 different quarterbacks and still had a chance to make the playoffs. So they still have enough talent to not have to hit reset. A lot of times when you lose a Drew Brees, you lose a Sean Payton back-to-back years, you have to hit reset, and you bring in a new coach, you bring in some new blood, but they don't feel like they're in that. And I don't either. I feel like they have enough players, DeMario Davis, Malcolm Jenkins, I mean, we could go down the list, Cam Jordan, all these players that are towards the end. I mean, they 2, 3, 4, whatever number that might be left in the tank, but they still have something left in the tank. So what they did is like, hey, we're going to bring Dennis Allen back. He's going to be our head coach because we feel like we have this continuity in this window. And so that's what they did. They went with the guy that they felt like could continue the success that they've had over the last couple of years. But, everybody's going to be paying attention to the quarterback position, certainly.
Yeah.
Who's going to be calling plays? Is it going to be Pete Carmichael? Do they keep that continuity on the offense as well?
On the quarterback spot, do we know enough about, did we get enough of a sample size of Jameis to bring him back again, or should we go heavy hunting for like a Russell Wilson?
So that's the question. And if you ask anybody on my show not named me, they say bring Jameis back like immediately. And Jameis did do some good things, but how much of that was because of Sean Payton? How much was because of Pete Carmichael? We don't know that. Now the Saints, I think we all know the stat by now, have not drafted a first-round quarterback since Archie Manning. Not done it. That is absolutely wild to me. This group of quarterbacks right now, you sit at 18, you could probably get a pretty good quarterback at 18. Is that what you want to do? Taysom Hill with the Liz Frank injury, still under contract, so you still have him. You know, Sean Payton's not there. That was obviously his project. Could you maybe release Taysom Hill, free up some salary cap money there? And the Saints do better than anybody in the NFL at freeing up cap money, so that's not really the issue. But what does Jameis cost now? He's going to want more than Taysom. I can promise
He
you
is,
that.
and he's going to want more than a one-year deal, probably.
Yeah, he's going to want some security. After coming off an injury, he's going to want some more security. So I don't know where they go. I mean, Jameis probably is the leader in the clubhouse, drafting a quarterback that, look, franchise history tells you they're not going to do that. So do you go get a Russ? Do you try to get an Aaron Rodgers? It feels like those two names probably out of the mix as soon as Sean Payton decides to retire, though.
Yeah, I really want Russell Wilson. I really do. To me, with Aaron Rodgers, I don't know that he'd be hungry wherever he goes next. Russell Wilson, I feel like he spent so long trying to earn that elite status, it would be a different game.
Can you get a Russell Wilson to New Orleans without Sean Payton is going to be the question. I understand if you trade for him, but look, he's going to have his options as well.
Got to ask about the Brian Flores situation because Flores was interviewed for the Saints job, and I personally don't think he's going to land another gig. But with the Rooney Rule in question,
which is crazy to me that just because he.
I know.
Brought something up
I know,
that
but
needed attention. He's not going to coach again.
Yeah, but when you walk into every interview knowing full well, hey, I'm about to sue you, like that's going to weigh on an owner's mind more than the wins and losses will. But when you look at everything that he has brought to the surface, going into the offseason, there was one minority head coach in the NFL. When the Saints hire Dennis Allen or promote Dennis Allen from within, when Flores and Eric Bieniemy, I really liked Eric Bieniemy, that would have been a Russell Wilson lock to me. When the Saints promote Dennis Allen, and I'm not just asking about the Saints, but every NFL franchise in the foreseeable future, are they going to have to view things through, I can't just hire the coach that I want, I have to worry about being looked at as racist right now?
I don't know. That's definitely something that is on the forefront right now, and I do think that the procedures need to be looked at. You need to make sure that you're interviewing everyone that is qualified for this job. I think the Saints actually did a nice job. Knowing Dennis Allen was always like the leader in the clubhouse, like I said, but they did go out. They did interview people, and I truly feel like Eric Bieniemy stayed for 8 hours. Like, I believe that was the Saints doing the due diligence and not just lip service. And I told this story on Friday on Off the Bench. Like, I had a running back coach, African-American, and I would have deep conversations with him, and he kind of was – I remember almost being like, I'm only going to be able to be a running back coach because that's kind of how this thing's been dictated to me. And I just remember feeling awful, like, man, you were so talented. You should be an offensive coordinator. You should strive to be a head coach. And so I do think it's getting better, but it's got to get much better. Like, it's got to continue to get better. Like, there's no reason in the world Eric Bieniemy should not be a head coach right now. Like, absolutely.
I completely agree.
Hey. So for me, it's just something that they had to continue to look at.
And there's no reason that Flores shouldn't have another gig
No,
yet.
absolutely not.
It's crazy.
The first back-to-back winning seasons in Miami since 2003, and you fire him. And you fire him. Like, look, and you can say, oh, he's hard to work for. How many coaches, if they're hard to work for, if they're winning, and if they got whatever, you're like, okay, you're winning. I don't care. Nick Saban, I played for.
I was going to say, the guy who was in Miami after 03. So.
Yeah, so, man, he deserves to be a head coach again. He's just the proof out there what he's done in his record.
What happens in an 8-hour interview?
Everything.
I mean, at a certain point.
It's not as crazy as you think, though. I mean, you're taking over $1 billion franchise. And
of course.
They want to make sure that every single thing, what's your philosophy on this? What's your stance on this? What do you look for in this position? Show me your offense. Draw it up. Personnel-wise, like, what do you look for? It goes like that faster than you would think 8 hours. Because us at the Combine, I mean, we're interviewing, an hour, like Senior Bowl, like when I played in that, like the Seahawks bring you up to a room and you interview with Mike Holmgren back in the day for an hour. It's just what it is. And that was just one player of 53 on the team.
I mean, it seems insane to me. Joe Burrow in front of the media yesterday could not answer who was his celebrity crush growing up. Who was your celebrity crush growing up?
Oh, Kelly Kapowski, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Saved by the Bell.
See?
I mean.
And now you've answered it and it's done. It's not going to be in your head for the rest of Super Bowl week. I have concerns. He's Jacob Hester from Off the Bench. What's coming up on the show today?
Obviously, we're going to lead off talking about Dennis Allen becoming the Saints coach. Obviously, the Alvin Kamara situation, there's some more in that, and certainly Super Bowl talk with Joe and all the LSU players.
You'll find him right upstairs and down the hall.
And Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey's coming on. I'm nervous at Kim Mulkey. I love her. She's the best.
She's scary, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love her.
Quick break. Your Money Now coming up in 2 minutes on Talk 107.3. Appreciate it. So I was talking about the hey, look, if you stop before traffic, so to go break, Your Money Now, then traffic. No, with Burrow being able to handle stage and all that stuff, I was saying Super Bowl week covers so much. Like, he can handle the questions of, you had a 3rd and 17, what were you seeing? Like, he can handle those questions all day long. Right. But what happens when you get inside your own head about crap like, who was your celebrity crush? And he couldn't answer the question, and now he's going to be like the rest of the week.
You didn't have anybody ready to go?
No, and they asked, who was your favorite actress? And you're not dealing with beat writers anymore. Yeah. You're dealing with having to answer questions from InStyle magazine and shit. Yeah. So I said, it's like if you're built like the rest of us, and obviously Joe Burrow's not built like the rest of us. Yeah. When your waiter brings your food out to your restaurant and they say, enjoy your meal, and you say, you too. Damn it! Yeah, and then it's like in your head for the rest of the night. Like, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, knowing Joe, he probably didn't watch TV. He was watching film growing up.
Right? So, yeah. You should have asked him who his favorite sideline reporter was. Thanks, Jake! All right, I'm finally over here on YouTube. What's happening, y'all? Clinton, Troy, Eric, Galen, all good morning to y'all and everybody else who's in there right now. Let's see. Oh. Saints can get sued now. See, that's the problem. How do you not? I don't know. Eric says Shreveport's still in Texas. That's funny. NFL owners shouldn't be excluded from defending their hiring and firing decisions. The rest of us have had to deal with this for years. But I'll tell you this. If I had a candidate for hiring threatening to sue me for my decision, I'm damn well would not hire them. That would make me document better and nothing else. Exactly right. So how do you walk down the path of you're going to have a PR fight on your hands? Oh, crap. What's Tuscaloosa number 1 at? F. It's like how I feel when someone asks me my favorite soccer player. Hello. I know who my favorite soccer player is. It's Roy Kent. Oi! I find myself when I need my kids' attention, when I want to get my kids' attention now. Oi!
See, when I want to tell people, I'm just done with them.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's amazing how the Irish, more than the British, they can just make the F word eloquent.
Eloquent is a word you could use to describe that.
Yeah.
But it's also it's a lot of words. Eloquent is one of them, but there are bigger words for that.
Sure. But it's different though. It's not like over here, if you're using the F word constantly, you're perceived as having a lack of vocabulary.
Yeah.
And nobody's wrong about that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's
also you put so much emphasis on like the F
right
of the word, but
they also very effectively use the C word, and that's underrated.
See, I think
overrated and underrated, the C word.
See, oddly enough, because I've been keeping up with soccer and British culture for over half a decade now, I've just gotten used to hearing that word.
Do we have to reset the camera?
No.
Oh, it's frozen on my side. Did you already reset it?
No. Looks great.
Okay. I'm going to Ireland in April. Can't wait to up my cursing game. God, I need to go back to Ireland. I don't even know if my wife's still listening right now. She's probably in mid-kid circus at this point.
Get yourself to a pub.
We went to Ireland for our honeymoon. So now that we've been married for 20 years, we're probably due to go again. How would you pronounce Privat? Private or privet? No E on the end. 6:53. Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, CBS World News Roundup coming your way in just a minute. A little tease of the show here. I've only seen this guy's name written down. I'll learn more about it this afternoon. Is today the 8th? Yeah, today's the 8th. I'll learn more about it this afternoon. Stephen, it's either private or privet, is going to be on Jeopardy today. The Jeopardy National College Championship, the purple and gold, will be repped on the big stage. Stephen's a political science major, originally from Lafayette, Louisiana. He'll be a competitor in his favorite television show, Jeopardy National College Championship. He's a third-year student who will be graduating this semester. The show features college students from 36 colleges and universities around the country competing for $250,000. The first episode airs on ABC this afternoon. Stephen will be on the show at 7:15 tomorrow to kind of recap the experience, talk about the competition, talk about as much as he can talk about, because I legit don't know if he wins and moves on after today or not. So, and I don't know where the other 35, which other 35 universities are on there. Anyway, you'll find Jeopardy on WBRZ this afternoon. What, 4:30 is when that airs? We'll have Stephen on tomorrow morning to talk about the entire experience. Right now, though, got to shift gears a little bit. And thanks again to Jacob Hester for what happened here. Thanks again to Jacob Hester for hopping on board to talk about the Dennis Allen hire. It's a good question, and we got a number of comments in our YouTube chat about it. Galen says NFL owners shouldn't be excluded from defending their hiring and firing decisions. The rest of us have had to deal with this for years. No, I know. But it's going to get that much more scrutiny in the NFL. Like, if you're making a hire at Galen's Hardware, that's not going to make the front page of the USA Today. Galen goes on to say, but I'll tell you this, if I had a candidate for hiring threatening to sue me for my decision, you know what, well, wouldn't hire them. That would make me document better and nothing else. And therein lies the problem. How do you move forward? How do you get to a point where you see the number of minority hires for NFL head coaching spots that you feel should be representative? And more importantly, these franchises have owners. So do you force a certain number of franchise to say you're not allowed to make the hire you want to make? The Rooney Rule's a joke, and everybody by the way, the Rooney Rule where you have to interview at least one minority candidate for each vacancy, it's a joke because, yes, and no one disagrees with Brian Flores about that. You can have it as a quote-unquote token interview and not treat it with any level of certainty or any level of seriousness at all. But when it all comes down to it, you're talking about franchises that are owned by people. And you can't force feed who they have to hire. We'll talk about it a lot more at another point. We got too much other ground to cover right now. Got to talk about whoa, what is this about? Hang on. Sorry, got some rogue audio rolling in. All right. We got to talk COVID for a minute. Because it looks like the Omicron variant, I know a little more than a week ago, we said it was starting to wane. Well, those numbers are starting to play out. COVID cases and hospitalizations continue on a downward trend in Louisiana. You heard the story from our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network at the bottom of the hour. Yesterday, we were down to 1,568 COVID patients in the hospital. That's a decrease of 253 from the weekend and the fewest since January 6th. Tulane epidemiologist Dr. Susan Hassig says we're better off than we were just a few weeks ago.
But I think it's really important for everyone to understand that even though the cases are falling in lots of areas of the state, we're still higher than we were at the peak of the Delta cases.
Caseload-wise, yes. But isn't that an important note as well? If you can have that many more cases with fewer people getting actually really, really sick, that's a good thing. When we were in the Delta variant, the number of days you'd refresh the Department of Health website only to find that triple digits worth of deaths every single day. We're not there anymore. By the way, yesterday 64 new deaths were reported. That was over to 3 days from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 days worth of reporting on Mondays. Hasek says when cases are on the downside of a surge, we tend to see cases and then hospitalizations like we did with previous surges, and fatalities are the last to show a decline. So when you see a number like 64 new deaths, you know that's going to be the trailing factor. As for the, not 64 new deaths, that's Friday's number. I want to say it was 48 yesterday. That doesn't sound right. My apologies, I'm looking at my screen, and apparently my screen did not refresh. As for the next surge, Hasek says there's a variant that's been referred to as the sister of Omicron, which is circulating in the U.S., but she believes it will have a hard time getting any kind of foothold.
It's one of these things where we've had so many people that have been infected in the near term with Omicron that I think it's probably going to have a hard time really establishing itself at this point in time.
And part of that is the natural immunity, right? After you've been infected, you have a certain level of natural immunity. Well, between those that have been vaccinated and boostinated and those that are coming off, yes, I know I said boostinated. Don't look at me like that. And those that are coming off of having COVID, which was very, very widespread with Omicron, we got a whole bunch of immunity built up right now. So, yeah, the next variant is going to be hard-pressed to find a home. Here comes the CBS World News Roundup. Where did that audio come from if my damn screen didn't refresh? And it sounded like me. Was it on Talk's website? I don't even have Talk's website open. So distracting. We need to pick up the chickens and horses debate. We do absolutely do not. I'm perfectly fine. Galen did. Well played. Yes.
Someone understands fine content right there. The finer details.
I'm perfectly fine saying C word, overrated, underrated.
In England and like Great Britain, properly rated.
Yeah.
In America, underrated.
Very underrated. Well, we're not allowed to use it because it's so mean, but that's only because we're a bunch of C words. Hey now.
Right, people.
Okay, I got Ghost Slim next, you said?
Yeah. And you also, dude, these, as soon as you pass them, they disappear.
It's okay.
I see Ghost Slim. Maybe that's not a live read or not, it doesn't specify. Give Muya. Let me just look through what else you have.
Galen says, I'm of the opinion that this day and time, NFL teams or any other business really look to hire the best candidates, regardless of race, gender, etc. Like Jake said, it's $1 billion franchise. $1 billion franchise. Are they really going to put things in the hands of anybody they don't think is the best? the best to make money. Oh, by the way, like a franchise's job, yes, you want to win Super Bowls, but at the end of the day, if you're not making money, these are business people. If you're not making money, you're not getting the job done. So, yeah, if you're not looking at every candidate across the board from a very equal and even perspective, then you're not doing your job as a business person. Race doesn't even enter it, or shouldn't even enter it anymore. Same time, though, we're not that far removed from the Donald Sterlings of the world. Remember the Clippers owner? I mean, who was just brazenly out there about it.
By the way, I'm not seeing any live reads for the rest of the show.
All right, I'm going to do them all anyway. I know I've got them, so. Yeah. Whew. Oh, good. Then Mooyah will be in the 8 o'clock hour where it belongs. Yeah. Thinking about lunch? As you smear that cream cheese all over your bagel, are you thinking about lunch? You know what I like to think about while I'm shaving? Burgers. Went and got myself a little sandwich from Mathern's last night. They have a buffalo chicken sandwich, and dare I say, it's pretty good.
For the longest time, I've been sleeping on buffalo chicken. Dude, it's pretty good.
But it's like sliced chicken, like deli chicken, not like chunk chicken, but they make it in the buffalo sauce, and then they put some banana peppers on it as well. Underrated.
Who's joining us for BRAC?
Scott Kirkpatrick, sorry. From Crisis, and Crisis is all capitalized because it's an acronym.
CRISIS?
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about a new Mississippi River Bridge. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake producing. And thanks to Jake, not Barty, Hester, for hopping on board. No, we thank Jake Barty as well. But thanks to Jacob Hester for hopping on board to talk a little bit about the Saints coach last hour. This hour, here's what we got for you. Scott Kirkpatrick is with Crisis. They are the ones looking at the traffic or transportation crisis in the Baton Rouge area. And $500 is being earmarked by the state to head towards a new Mississippi River Bridge. How excited are you about this? Is it finally here? Can we finally stop calling the Horace Wilkinson the new bridge? Can we finally stop calling an 80-year-old bridge new? I think it's 80-ish. That's at 7:15, 7:35. We're going to talk with Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. A little more than a week ago, Chief Paul was in on a press conference with the Attorney General, Jeff Landry, and a number of law enforcement officials from around the capital region. We're looking at a really bad problem right now, crime-wise. And it's more difficult to fight, apparently, than it's been in the past. Between being on the back end of that whole pendulum swing of defunding the police. The sentiment and reputation of police on the streets is not where it once was, to be sure. From that, you've got a hiring crisis. You've got a different form of criminal. There's a lot more juvenile crime out there today, creating the exact same crimes that grown-ups were committing for some time. And then on top of that, you've got the judicial problem as well. So how can the AG's office, the district attorneys, the law enforcement agencies from around the area, how can they team up, combine forces, if you will, to make for a safer Baton Rouge and Capital Region? Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. We're going to get you to top stories and trending in just a second, but first, got to ask you, hey, we're a little more than a month and a week into the new year. How is your New Year's resolution going? We got Fat Tuesday coming up in a couple weeks. Is everyday fat right now? Might want to think about adopting some healthier lifestyle choices. You might want to think about knocking off a few pounds, and you might want to think about the folks at Go Slim Nutrition. They work for me. I've lost over 60 pounds. I'm within reach of being where I was at when I graduated high school more than 25 years ago. Yeah, high school weight. How about that? 763-9600 to get you started. 763-9600 to get you started. Jumpstart plans are available right now. If you don't want to make like a 6-month to a year commitment right off the bat, no problem. They've got a Jumpstart plan to get your new year started. Try out the meals, try out the bars, try out the shakes. But it's not about the food. The food's great, but it's not about the food. It's about the accountability and the teamwork. You go over there every single week, you sit down, you weigh in, you talk about what you did right, what you did wrong, and how you can do better. You map out where your week is at. Well, I'm having dinner with friends on this night, going to get together with the boys, go drinking on this night. You work through all that to make sure the program works within your lifestyle. This isn't some starvation diet where you're all in until you're not, and you fall off the wagon and your weight yo-yos. This is steady work to get you towards your finish line and keep you there. They're on Bluebonnet at Perkins. Go Slim Nutrition, GEAUX, slimbr.com. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll. He's early. Entergy's out with a new logo. That'll solve all your problems. They rolled it out yesterday. Quote, in recognition of the transformation underway in our industry, our business, and the expectations of our stakeholders, Entergy is launching a new, refreshed brand over the next several months to more fully convey who we are today and for future generations, the company announced in a statement yesterday. A couple accused of beating a toddler to death and then faking the girl's disappearance was formally charged in her murder back on January 27th. They pled not guilty yesterday. Court records show a grand jury indicted Philip Gardner and Lanaya Cardwell, each on account of second-degree murder in the death of 2-year-old Nevaeh Allen. Gardner also faces a charge of obstruction of justice. The pair was arrested back in September after a sprawling search for the missing girl ended with her body being found inside a suitcase in a wooded area of Mississippi. Cardwell initially claimed Nevaeh vanished from her Baton Rouge apartment, but police later uncovered that Gardner dumped the 2-year-old's body after he found her unresponsive at their home. A 16-year-old student was arrested after deputies found a loaded handgun in his backpack Monday morning. According to East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, the gun was found by the School Drug Task Force at Glen Oaks High around 8:15 a.m. Deputies said no threat was reported. The students did not provide any information as to why he had the gun. The student was charged with illegally carrying a firearm on school property in a firearm-free zone. A wanted suspect was taken into custody after refusing to come out of a hotel on Airline Highway early Monday morning. The situation was first reported, early Monday, around noon Monday at the Quality Inn near the intersection of Airline and Interline. The suspect was taken into custody short before 1 p.m. No other details on the suspect or the charges that person is facing were made immediately available. A trove of text messages and emails obtained by WBRZ's investigative unit through a public records request show key members of Governor John Bel Edwards' staff, Lawmakers and those at the top of the Louisiana State Police were all talking amongst themselves about the Ronald Greene case. Some messages indicated a need to improve the image of state police amid growing controversy over how the agency handled Greene's death. The emails are thousands of pages long. They show the massive force of the general public writing to the governor, expressing outrage that no one had been arrested in connection with the Greene case. We're going to pick that story up at 8:15. Chris Nakomoto from WBRZ will join us to talk about it. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. A bakery in Queen City is mixing things up in a sweet Louisiana way as Joe Burrow heads to the Super Bowl. Quote, Mardi Gras has finally arrived in Cincinnati as an official party. This is coming from Buskin Bakery Vice President Brian Buskin. The Midwest take on the Louisiana delicacy is topped with orange and black sugar for the Bengals. A do-it-yourself kit includes footballs, beads, and a baby Joey. That's not a kangaroo. They're talking about Joe Burrow. The King of the Jungle Cake is what they're calling it, named for the Bengals Stadium, is sold out online and flying off the shelves in the store. Quote, we have already sold 2,000. We're probably going to sell another 1,500 this week, said Buskin. This isn't the first time that Buskin Bakery has made and sold king cakes. Buskin says they started making the Louisiana treat 15 years ago after his father visited. Get this. If you want to learn how to make king cakes, get a load of what Cincinnati's doing here. They didn't go to Manny Randazzo. They didn't go to Dong Fong. They didn't find a McKenzie's. They went to Ambrosia off Segan. Look, I love Ambrosia Bakery. Underrated breakfast across the board. Fantastic cakes across the board. I love Ambrosia. But if I'm learning how to make a king cake, I mean, you coming up here? All right, let me know. On the YouTube, let me know. Best king cake in Baton Rouge. Where are you finding it? Who's got the best king cake in Baton Rouge? I mean, coming up here. You know, if you're looking for you got to go back to the origin, right? Like, I love it up. I love so many king cakes up here. That's what I expect from the city that comes up with Who Day. Quick break. Coming back. We're talking a new Mississippi River Bridge next. Who Day. It's like Who Dat, but it's an hour up the interstate. Didn't have the no look going this morning. I missed 3 of them. How long is this break? Shoot. I'm cold. What? Yeah. Muster up that energy to repeat the same take? I don't know. .717 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So, when will we stop calling the Horace Wilkinson the new bridge? Well, that'll be when we get a new bridge. Joining us now to talk about that is Scott Kirkpatrick. He is with the Capital Region Industry for Sustainable Infrastructure Solutions. Scott, welcome back. How are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
No, always love having you on. Always love talking about this. Although I full disclosure, all talk about a new Mississippi River Bridge, and I instantly feel like Charlie Brown going to kick the football. So I don't know when we're going to get past that point. I'm thinking it'll be my fourth or fifth time actually driving on the bridge before I believe it's underneath me.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is where we are. It doesn't mean we stop working towards it, though. And that's what Crisis has been doing, and that's what you're here to talk about today. So, $500 million in the state budget for a new Mississippi River Bridge. Let's start with the probability that this remains $500 million for the new bridge. Like, this is going to get earmarked and put where it needs to be, correct?
We certainly hope so. You know, I think it is kind of one-time money they're looking at. There's a lot of one-time money they have at the legislature, and no doubt a lot of legislators have ideas about what they want to do with that one-time money. But I'll say that we certainly the commitment of the Capital Region of the bridge has been strong, and initial discussions with our delegation in the Capital Region have been very positive about their understanding the importance of this money. So we're very hopeful about getting this big chunk to help move the project forward.
It takes more than $500 million to build this bridge, though. How do we make sure this money is actually used and not earmarked just to sit there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You know, I was on about a year ago when we had or a little less, we had a huge victory with the dedication of the vehicle sales tax to really a suite of projects across the state, including the Mississippi River Bridge. And so we have kind of an annualized funding stream from our vehicle sales tax proceeds to do a number of projects, including the bridge. And so what we're looking to do is pair this one-time money with that kind of continuing funding stream that will, in essence, be bonded out. And that, along with tolling, will be how we get to the finish line.
How long does a process like that take before we break ground? Just the dollars and cents of it, not the location part.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, making the decisions about the bonding, if the funding stream is there and evident, is not too long. That's one of the easier things you can do. Certainly, you want to arrange your funding in the appropriate way, but there are plenty of folks out there eager to tell you to take your money with a bonding scheme if you've got it available. So,
talk with Scott Kirkpatrick from Crisis. Crisis is an acronym for Capital Region Industry for Sustainable Infrastructure Solutions. Okay, so let's say we get all the dollars and get all of our financial ducks in a row. We're ready to roll here. Now we're looking at narrowing down on a site. This has proven problematic in the past. How do we get to a finish line of getting one specific site ready to roll?
Yeah, I really think it's about leaders in the region coming together, right? I mean, you're absolutely correct that about 15 years ago, we tried to do this, and we just didn't have the commitment as a region to make it happen, and that effort fell apart. We know any effort like this, you're not going to get every single person happy with the location, right?
Yeah.
Last time, some people thought it was too close to them, and some thought it was too far away from them, right? And they pulled out of the process. And we've got, as a region, just be strong enough to say, look, this is what is in the best interest of the region. Let's pick the best location we can and move forward. And so that's going to be happening. And I just want to highlight that there will be public meetings on these locations here in the spring. And that's going to be a great time to provide input on that. And on the back end of that, they will narrow it to about 3. So we're really going to, by the summertime, have a good sense for where this bridge is going.
3 locations by the summertime is promising. Getting that down to 1, would that be done by the end of the year?
No, it'll be a little longer as they kind of fully vet those 3. But we've had preliminary conversations that in 2023 we can begin the process of soliciting a partner, kind of a tolling partner that would come along and begin, really doing the design and other aspects that are needed for actually constructing it. So the federal process does take longer. It's going to take us into 23 and 24 for kind of the final environmental process. But getting down to 3 is huge, and then getting a partner on board to build it would be a huge, hopefully, win in 2023.
Scott Kirkpatrick with Crisis is our guest. We're talking about narrowing down and eventually building a new Mississippi River Bridge. So when it comes down to it, when we get down to 3 and narrow it down to 1, how do you rank the priorities here? Because $500 million is one thing, bonding out for more money is another thing. Terra firma underneath is going to affect the cost as well. So how do you rank the priorities of we're going to go ahead and build on X location?
It's a tremendous question, and I know the group going through it now has a big matrix with a number of those things. I think from our group standpoint, one of the big things we're looking at is making sure the location is one that entices a lot of people off the current bridge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to, and so that will be something we'll be looking at a good bit. I'm sure that will be relevant also to the tolling revenue. You know, the more people that use it, the more tolls you'll get, and so the more the less you have to rely on kind of some public funds. And so those would be some considerations. I'm sure there'll be some local considerations as far as, again, how well does this corridor fit in the nearby community and things like that. So, you know, I'd tell you there are probably 10, 15 different decision points, and different groups will have their own priorities and things that matter the most to them.
Yeah, if the area hasn't been developed yet, there's likely a reason for that, and I would imagine wetlands would factor in at some point, which would just increase the cost of the bridge. So are we prepared to go like all the way from Highway 1 to Highway 30 elevated the entire time?
So great question. You know, certainly the focus has been on the bridge, but you got to get to and from it. And there's different aspects of what LA1 will look like. Highway 30, Highway 30 actually has a pretty robust process being done now to understand how you four-lane that, and then whether you have kind of controlled access on Highway 30. So, yeah, ideally you need to be able to get on and off I-10 very quickly along LA1 and Highway 30 to the bridge very quickly. And so there's some a lot of considerations even before and after you get to the bridge that we got to work through.
Oh, you keep opening more questions as I'm asking them. Scott Kirkpatrick from Crisis.
Not the simplest.
No, well, so you mentioned tolls a minute ago. We'll get back around to that in a minute. But in that last answer, you mentioned four-laning Highway 30.
Yep.
Can that ball get rolling before construction starts on a bridge? We are notorious around here of playing catch-up when it comes to our roads as opposed to being proactive. This feels like an opportunity to get out in front of the lead car.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a great question, and thankfully we have. You know, East Baton Rouge Parish, you may recall, with the Move BR program.
Oh yeah,
has already has plans to four-lane it to the Parish line, which is tremendous, and that's moving forward. And then, of course, you have the Iberville sections and the Ascension sections. Both those parishes, I know, are committed to that, and there is a process right now they're working on to four-lane that, going through the planning process. So, yes, we are already starting that process. It will sync with the bridge, but it is not waiting for a bridge location to be determined to start.
So basically from, let's see, 30 squeezes down from 4 to 2 at Burbank and then opens back up at Lamar-Dixon. Like, we could see a four-lane that entire stretch.
Absolutely. It's a must. It's a must for the whole region, even without a bridge, frankly. But with a bridge, it's an absolute necessity.
All right, got to circle back to tolls. You mentioned something about tolls. The more traveled the bridge is, the more tolls you're going to collect. Are we under the assumption that this is going to be a toll bridge?
Yes, I think that's always been felt. That's got to be the way it is, just because of the vast needs across the state. The Lake Charles Bridge that they're working on, that's going to be a toll bridge as well. So some of these high-dollar, billion-dollar-plus projects have got to be tolled to kind of take some pressure off kind of the public fisc.
Back around to site location. How much is the environmental going to play into this as far as not just what's under the bridge as far as wetland versus not, but could we run into, I hate to bring this up because we've seen it happen before, but could we run into environmental habitats, like wildlife habitats, standing in the way of a new bridge?
Yeah, you know, they've already vetted a good bit of those things out. I won't, certainly with the current alternatives, 20 current alternatives, there's still, I'm sure, some other environmental components to that they'll have to work through. But so the answer is yes, but I do think this is a long process they're going through, this environmental review process. So I am very hopeful that when they get to the end of it, they don't have any environmental problems. But you're right, and just, wetlands is certainly a consideration. There's a reason a number of these areas haven't been developed, and so we'll have to work through that. And certainly, you got cultural sites and other things that they consider in the process.
Yeah. Talk with Scott Kirkpatrick from Crisis for a couple more minutes about the potential of a new Mississippi River Bridge. Now I've got to ask about timelines, not for projected construction of a bridge, but from opening date to expiration date for everything involved. One of the things we've seen in the past is if you survey the land, that's only available for a good period of time. Same would be true with construction costs. Same would be true with earmarking dollars. So how do we get everything in line within the right time frame?
Yeah, so I think, look, we're very hopeful and very bullish on a quick time frame. I mean, I think one of the things when this kind of $500 million allocation came up, some legislators from other areas were like, we don't need to be giving that to them because they'll never move this through fast enough. We've seen that region before try to build a bridge and they failed at it, right? So they're talking about how we're unable to make a decision, that will be years and years before we do it. And frankly, we got to step up and show them we can rally around the location and that we can use this money quickly. That's going to be important. It's going to be a source of discussion in the upcoming session. And so that's one thing our group's very focused on, is working with all the leaders to get on the same page as quick as possible. But yeah, you got to have the money come into place. You want the design to be appropriate and not go over budget. I mean, no doubt, I'm not an expert, but certainly heard that construction costs have gone up a good bit, and that it will play a factor in to the total cost. And can we engineer around that, or what we have to do to take that into account?
Got less than a minute to go with Scott Kirkpatrick from Crisis. Okay, so what are our actionable next steps for this legislative session?
Yeah, so overall, we've I think as a region, again, is letting your legislators know that we care about this. We want it to happen quickly, and we want them to support the funding for this, the one-time funding that's been proposed by the governor, which we're so thankful for, kind of his commitment to the bridge, really a legacy project, I think, for him, along with some other major ones we're doing. And I would tell you that in a couple months, we're going to have some big public meetings, and that's everybody's chance to go out. They'll be across the capital region, see the locations, and provide their thoughts on that. And then that's going to be a really important part of the process. So the next few months will be very important. By the time we get to the summer, we'll know what type of allocation of funding we've gotten from the legislature, and we'll know we'll have it down to 3 locations. So it'll be a great time for us to catch up again.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go ahead and book that now because I'm ready for it. And it is it's getting hopeful, to say the least, but history makes the perception what it is. Scott Kirkpatrick with Crisis, we always appreciate the time and the insight, sir.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you, and we're looking forward to talking again about this. All right. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but we don't have time to unpack it because we got to break for news. We'll break for news, traffic, weather. When we come back, Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul is going to hop on the hotline. Let's talk about alignment in law enforcement, not just from the law enforcement end, but from the prosecutorial end as well. The Attorney General, a number of district attorneys, and a number of law enforcement outfits from around the capital area got together to figure out how they can combine forces. That's next. I got to get my space heater. I'm freezing my ass.
Good morning. Doing well, and yourself? Wonderful. We just hit our break. We're going to be live in about 5-ish minutes. We'll get you on, okay? Thank you. Please hold.
told you after last Wednesday when that guy said I said shit on the air, I went back and listened to the entire first hour. On the air and it was not on the air at all. Like breaks and whatnot. Like even before Franz came on, because I started thinking maybe I said it before he was on. Yeah, he was.
What made you think of that?
I don't remember.
I actually kind of thought about that also last night. I wonder if he did end up hearing it.
No. It was, yeah, well, I dialed all the way back to the beginning of the hour just to make sure. And once I got up to the part where Franz was on, I was like, let me just double check since I'm already here. Hey, Klay Thompson's on the birthday list today. He made me $20 last night. In-game over-unders.
Yeah.
So,
a friend of mine who's betting like 100 on the rag and he's getting back 7.
yeah.
He's just printing his own money because you're
It's-
betting on stuff that's more than likely to happen anyways.
Guy,
If you do it 6 times, then yeah, the likelihood is technically unlikely. But if you're putting all your chips into all stars, then yeah, you're probably gonna get it.
yeah, if Klay Thompson's over-unders at 15.5 and he's got 10 by halftime, well, that tells you he's got another half. He should hit 20, right? It just makes sense. So I hit on Klay Thompson and one other one last night. I don't remember who the other one was. But Klay's was at 15.5. Somebody else was only 3 points off of their total at halftime. And I'm like, is he in foul trouble? Is he hurt? DeAndre Ayton.
Yep, I was listening to that.
Yeah, once I actually pull the trigger and start betting real money and not $5 and $10 a game. .736 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Scott Kirkpatrick for talking about the possibility of a new Mississippi River Bridge. No time to waste. We go right back to the hotline. We welcome in Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Paul, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Can you hear me, Brian?
I can hear you just fine this morning. How are you today?
Righty. I'm fine. I'm fine this morning.
So
I am fine.
glad to have you on because you were in a press conference, I guess it was a little more than a week ago, with Attorney General Jeff Landry, and I just want to spend this segment unpacking that press conference because it brought a lot of stuff to light. First of all, your immediate takeaways from it.
Well, every time we meet with our law enforcement partners, it's always a learning experience, and there's always opportunities to look at how we can do better. And, A.G. Landry, when he, called for the meeting and we met, some of the issues that was presented was on the prosecution side of it, and how can he work with DAs and the federal government to help. We're all challenged with vacancies and all of the issues that the pandemic has presented to court systems, both on the local and state level. So it was really a regional. It wasn't just Baton Rouge. It was representatives from the capital area, and we just talked about identifying that small group of people, right, that's out there, the bad elements, and how we can do better so that good people in neighborhoods can go about their daily lives.
Is the small group of people in Baton Rouge, this isn't the same small group of people that you would find in West Baton Rouge or Iberville, but we're seeing similarities, correct?
Well, that's the thing we talked about, Brian. Oftentimes we talk about Baton Rouge, and Baton Rouge is the big city. But look, this isn't just happening in Baton Rouge. It's happening all over in the capital area. It's happening all over in the United States of America. When you look at the 30% average in homicides last year, the 16% that we had last year, I think if you look at other jurisdictions, you'll see similar numbers. So we recognize that this issue that we're facing isn't just a city of Baton Rouge issue. It's a Louisiana issue, it's a national issue, and it's a community issue.
What were some of the takeaways as to what can actually be done? Like, what can we expect to see in the near future when it comes to collaboration between different departments?
Well, we started that in January. On January 4th, my team and I met with all of our federal partners. We met with all of the federal law enforcement agencies, the sheriff's office, state police, everybody that has an office in the city of Baton Rouge, those law enforcement agencies, as we prepare our strategic plan. And, through the leadership of our mayor and our national partner, public safety partnership, we are now for the first time putting together a strategic plan to reduce violence that's inclusive of everybody. For example, in the past, Baton Rouge Police had its strategic plan, the sheriff, all those other agencies. For the first time, we're going to have one strategic plan working with our federal partners. I was interviewed yesterday. I saw the DA was there yesterday. When I was leaving, the sheriff was there. The FBI was there. So we're really confident that this plan that we are putting together under the leadership of our mayor is going to be one that's really going to help us reduce violence. We're talking both short-term goals and long-term goals.
Short-term goals tend to fall into your lap a lot more than the long-term, because the long-term ones you have to start talking about things like economic development and education to make generational change. There's not a whole lot can be done from your seat to get that done. But when it comes to the short-term goals, this is more your wheelhouse. Now, one of the bigger takeaways that I saw from the press conference was the collaboration, not just from the law enforcement end, the arresting end, but the prosecutorial end as well. How much room is there to grow here, and are we seeing templates? You mentioned this sort of thing's happening everywhere. Are we seeing templates from other areas for this level of collaboration from an AG or a DA to a police chief or a sheriff?
Well, absolutely. Brian, when we look at the strategy we were putting together, it wasn't just inclusive of all of our law enforcement agencies. We met with our judges. We met with the judges of the 19 JDC. We met with Hill or Moore to discuss areas of improvement. We also met with our juvenile court judges. And in each one of those meetings, there were takeaways, not only what we can do better as law enforcement, but also some things that those agencies as well can do to help us keep that small group of people in jail. And that's the issue that we're seeing. But, yeah, there were great takeaways in terms of modernizing some of the restrictions on bonds, getting judges and the DA's office information on a time matter so they can make better informed decisions. So we're working on that. We've included everyone in this strategy that we're putting together. And I think what you're going to see is a product that will set clear goals that's going to be committed to saving lives and stop violence in this city. You're going to see a plan that's going to identify key people and places that are driving the violence here in our city. And it's a plan to engage the people in those places. And I think that when we do that, you're going to see more accountability. I think if you look at Brian since January 1st, the information that Gino and Don, and congratulations to Don, he was just promoted yesterday, you're going to see you're seeing more information being put out by them on the great work that the men and women of this police department are doing.
Don got promoted yesterday?
Yes, sir, he did.
So he could be a head case on Thursday for Crime Stoppers? We're going to have to dial the ego back?
Well, let me tell you something. He's doing a great job at Crime Stoppers. One of the things we talked about, look, I want to thank the Baton Rouge community for their part in stepping up. They're getting more calls. They're solving more homicides, helping us solve more homicides through the calls we're getting through Crime Stoppers. So we know that this community is doing their part and helping us more, and we're going to continue to build on that.
All right, you mentioned Gino, LJ McNeely, and Don Coppola, and I was going to address this at the end of the segment, but since you brought them up, let me go ahead and get to it now. I've seen more press releases for perp walks in recent weeks. I have to assume that is intentional, and I have to assume that one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past, Chief, is public perception. Do you feel safe? And I got to assume that being able to visibly see the perp walk means that on our TV, in our living room, or our bedroom, we're able to see when bad guys are in handcuffs and taken off the street. Is that intentional?
It is intentional, Brian. Look, we hear about the crime, but we don't hear as much about the great work that our police officers are doing. And we're very intentional with that now more than ever before. I tell you, I get calls. People are saying, well, Chief, we're seeing a lot of arrests now. Well, we've been making arrests. Mm-hmm. We're doing a better job of putting the information out and informing the public that we are out there putting those bad actors in jail. And look, I got some stories that I want to tell you because, we do great work every day. Let me tell you this, Brian. Let me tell you about Officer Brister, Officer Newsom, and Officer Gaskin, who received a report of a robbery. And those three officers chased the suspect and caught those suspects after a short distance. And that suspect was also a suspect in the theft of a firearm. Let me tell you about Motor Officer Tremaine Smith, who observed a small group of people on the side of the road on Florida Boulevard. And he intervened and determined that there was a suicidal suspect that was trying to kill himself. And you know what he did? He communicated with that person. He developed a rapport, and he talked him into safety, and thank God that he's still alive. Let me tell you about Officer Mitchell and Officer Mitchell Calais, who responded to a shooting scene where a young man was shot in the legs and was bleeding, and they applied first aid and placed tourniquets on the victim's leg, and he's alive till today. Let me tell you about Michael Seymour, Marcus Thompson, and Officer Jeremy Givens, who responded to a call where a victim who was a victim of domestic violence from her ex-boyfriend who shot at her. And they were able to locate that subject and also seize a gun in that place, in that incident. And the guy was a convicted felon. Or I can tell you about Sergeant Michael Everett, who ran across a young 17-year-old who was going through a very emotional event and couldn't go to school that day. And she was a cheerleader. And he offered to pay out of his pocket for an iPad and Wi-Fi so that she can go to school virtually so she can graduate. And he contacted victim services who were able to provide those services to her. And look, Brian, I got story after story after story. I can talk about the great work that the men and women of this police department are doing and how proud I am to serve with them.
Call them out by name, Chief. We don't hear enough of that. Honestly, the conversation always rolls around to if it bleeds, it leads. You're only going to hear the bad news because people are going to tune into the bad news. But honestly, like I brought this up with Don last week, was after at the end of the night on ESPN, you're going to see SportsCenter. And what are you going to see on SportsCenter? Highlights. And we tune in to watch highlights. I don't know why when it comes to law enforcement, we only hear about it when things go wrong. To me, there should be a craving for that. Absolutely. Got a couple more minutes with Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. I got to ask about judges because you and I have talked about it in the past. It came up in the press conference with the AG and a number of law enforcement officials from around the area. Where are we with holding judges accountable for making sure the people that y'all continually arrest, repeatedly arrest, making sure they stay locked up?
Well, and I think I talked about that earlier, Brian. You know, we got to make sure that we do a better job. And when I say we, I mean we, the police department, we, the district attorney's office, are giving them all the information that they need to make better informed decisions. And we recognize that. And I think that we're going to see some progress on that. And look, I really believe, and I mean this, Brian, when I look at the synergy that's going on, we talked about success, but in terms of the coordinated piece, especially when we compare what we're doing here to other jurisdictions, look, under the leadership of our mayor and her efforts to put this strategy together with our national partners, I really believe we're going to see not just immediate small wins, but long-term reductions in violence and addressing all of those areas, those socioeconomic issues that drive crime.
We got to talk about District Attorney Tony Clayton for a minute because he was very, very vocal in that same press conference about the age of the problem. And we are seeing more and more violence from more and more juveniles. This is going to change the way y'all have to approach it, I would assume. Arrests are arrests, but the game changes a little bit different. The game is a little bit different when you're talking about kids instead of grown-ups. How much is that going to play into it?
Well, look, most of our kids, we are seeing increases in juvenile violence, and I understand Tony's frustration with that. That's why services are so important. We can arrest the bad actors that are committing a crime, and I said earlier, we're doing a better job of identifying them and making sure that we take a very focused approach and not a fishnet approach to the community and addressing crime, and we're doing that. And we're going to hold those individuals accountable. But we still have to look at how are young people getting here. We talk about education. We talk about lack of opportunities. All of those things play into the root causes of violence. So if you look at a lot of the services that are being offered through the city, through the mayor's Hope and Safe for Healthy initiative, what we're doing is we realize that, we have services and we have to do a better job of making sure that everyone knows how to take advantage of those opportunities and services. And we're trying to do that even more. I just talked about earlier about one of our officers who took the time to call social services and help get that young lady some help. So we got to continue working with our young people, our middle schoolers, our high schoolers, so that we're working with them so that we don't have to deal with them later on. And we have a lot of faith and confidence in our young generation. We just have to work with families and institutions to help build future leaders.
We got Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. Very quickly, since we got to get out of here, very quickly, when is the next meeting that we can, between y'all, when's the next collaboration to where we can know more specifics about the plans that are to come?
So, like I said earlier, we're meeting with our federal partners this week. There's a workshop today. There's a workshop tomorrow. Some of my team members will be there. And, when these meetings are complete, we're going to have a plan that will be available for public consumption with some clear ways to measure the outcomes. So those meetings are happening now. And we're also meeting every day with our federal partners. We met Friday with looking at ways to identify and engage those key people who are engaged in crime. So we're going to continue with those strategies, and we really believe, Brian, based on what we see so far, we've had 10 murders this year. That's far too many. Yeah. 10 is far too many. We had 4 more last year at this time. So we're going to continue building this and hope that we can continue to identify those individuals and hold them accountable.
Conversation's not over with, but that's where we're going to call it for today. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul, thank you so much for hopping on board.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We will talk to you soon for more follow-up on that. And, yeah, show me the box score. Show me the highlight reel. We'll have to pick that back up in a minute. We're super late for a break. Outside In, coming your way next. Damn, I wanted specifics on the plan now. He meant with prosecutors, not judges. All right. Amy says, honestly, Rouse's Cinnamon is my favorite in town. Okay. I'm never over by Rouse's. I don't have a Rouse's by my house. I got when I work at LSU, I'm right there by Mathern's on campus, which is awesome. Get the wedding cake, king cake. Who Day is awful, just awful. Troy says, we bought a Decorate Yourself king cake from Ambrosia this past weekend, and I was surprised it's really good. I'm not. Ambrosia does great work. Tell you who's underrated in Baton Rouge is Gambino's on Goodwood, right behind Terra Subdivision. They're good. Who Day been used since 81. Wonder if Goodell sued them trying to claim NFL licensing. Who Dat was used by Patterson High School Lumberjack fans in 1980 when Dalton Hilliard played. They made it to the high school championship game. The cheer was, who Dat say they're going to beat them Jacks, which Dalton also played for the Saints in 86, 87, 88-ish. Are they looking if energy collapses and closed plants also? If not, another bridge to nowhere? I don't think so. No. You would basically have to have Baton Rouge shut down as an entire entity in order for this to be another bridge to nowhere. Oh, and Ascension Parish crumble, too. $7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We got CBS News coming your way shortly. In our next hour, going to be talking with WBRZ's Chris Nakomoto about the state police cover-up of Ronald Greene's death and the text threads that are now available, emails that are now available. He and the investigative unit are poring over them. It's a lot to read, though. A lot to consume, a lot to unpack. That's coming your way at 8:15. 8:40, Congressman Troy Carter, D.C. Current. We do this every single week, most weeks. Sometimes the congressman's a little tied up. You know, the business of the U.S. government takes precedence every once in a while. We got a lot of ground to cover with Congressman Carter, though. The labor secretary was in town yesterday. Not in our town, down in New Orleans. So we'll talk with Congressman Carter at 8:40 about what that all entailed and what we could be on the lookout for. Right now, though, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish, as we do every single day, a segment we call The Outside In. Going to start off in West Baton Rouge Parish. The Intracoastal Bridge, which is in the process of being replaced, is going to have closure starting today. Quote, it will cause some serious traffic problems, says Lieutenant Ken Alvarez. DOTD will have alternating shoulder closures in both northbound and southbound lanes of Highway 1 near the bridge. The all-day closures, they started about an hour ago. They'll continue until 5 p.m. Alvarez says working on the northbound closures will be easier than southbounds because there's a service road to divert traffic from that northbound side. It's going to take a lot more than a year to get this done, so be ready for these closures for the foreseeable future. While we're talking road closures, a section of Highway 10 in West Feliciana Parish is shut down due to a sinkhole. Officials said the closures in St. Francisville near Rosedown Baptist Church. The highway will remain closed for all but local traffic from Highway 61 to 965 until repairs are completed. Drivers are to take Highway 965 according to DOTD. Down in New Orleans, council members have had enough. Had enough of the way that Mayor LaToya Cantrell is handling or not handling public safety. Yesterday, a rally was held at City Hall calling for the governor to send in state troopers to help clean things up. Pick up our mess. The demonstration, dubbed the Rally for Peace, came as the city council amps up pressure on Mayor LaToya Cantrell to change her public safety policies. Council members said they're calling on Governor John Bel Edwards to send state troopers to patrol interstate highways in the city, freeing up NOPD to handle things off of the interstate. Might not be the worst idea considering it's Mardi Gras time. Closing out in Ascension Parish, an Olive Garden is on the way. Well, it's planned for Gonzales. Chain restaurant would be located on Outfitters Drive and Sportsman's Park near the I section of 10 and Highway 30. The area includes Cabela's, Walk-Ons, Don's Seafood, as well as several fast food chains and hotels. The plans were actually in front of the Planning and Zoning Committee last night. I have not yet seen approval. But, you know, if the folks from Olive Garden brought breadsticks, everyone would have to vote yes based solely off the smell. That's the Outside In. We're due up for CBS News. Coming back with Hour 3 next. Galen says Highway 1 to Highway 30 is the best. To and from Highway 30 is the best and really only alternative. It's obvious. Yes, but Highway 1 and Highway 30 are, while not directly parallel, they're essentially parallel. And within there, where do you pick between Highway 1 and Highway 30? Like, how do you narrow that down? I mean, I'm talking like down to like, here's where I plant my flag here. How do you narrow down to that? It's tough. Shut up, North Louisiana legislature. Sorry, the bridge. Don't underscore a possum racing arena, man. That's jobs. That's jobs and tax revenue. When it comes to the shut up North Louisiana, Byron says they need to be their own state. Galen goes right back with they're not interested in becoming a state because they have no tax base. They need South Louisiana's tax base, but they want to spend it geographically rather than by priority. Correct. Per capita, they receive more social assistance dollars and bring in much less revenue. At least that was the case a couple of years ago when I looked it up. So, yeah. It's amazing. I like, if you're continually receiving government assistance. Now, I'm a Republican through and through, but I don't understand those who would constantly be on the dole, voting constantly for the party that would like to eliminate that dole. It doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, teach his own. The underreported story about the new bridge is why so many state dollars are needed to fund it. It would be part of the interstate highway system and must be one of the biggest problems on all of I-10. So about that, you are not yet right, but you would be right if you went 10 to 1, 1 to 30, 30 back to 10. Now you've got a portion of a loop, and you've got a 210 or a 310 or whatever you want to call it, as far as it being an interstate, like 110 goes up to the airport. If you wanted to do it that way, it would be part of the interstate system, and you could open things up to a lot more federal dollars. Although I do wonder that, like, if you did it that way, how much control would you lose over things like location and not dislocating the environment of the spotted Dr. Pepper frog. Like, do you run into that problem? But we do need a 210. And yes, that interstate spur would be part of a loop. If we get one part of a loop, we could be encouraged to see. Sorry. Oh, God, I can't talk about why I'm laughing.
Chris Nakomoto is WBRZ's chief investigator, right?
Yes. All right. That's funny. That's so funny. The underrated reporter, we know how to reduce crime, prosecute and jail criminals, but it's politically incorrect to do so. None of the feel-good stuff, empathy, understanding why criminals are criminals matters. Yes, and yet we blame the chief for every problem we have. This is the part that I can't seem to get past. We blame the chief for every problem we have. And yet all he can do is arrest people. It's up to the judges to hold them and up to the district attorney's office. And Hiller does a good job, but he is so backlogged. Yep. Like, the problem is so much bigger than the chief. And yeah, what you're seeing down in New Orleans with all the council people saying, bring in the state troopers. Oh, I just crapped all over the floor. Would you mind cleaning this up? Like, it just, the policies that are enacted have consequences. Living through those consequences, and don't look to tout yourself for correcting your own problems after you've created them. The person who dug the hole went and filled the hole up. Give him a prize. No. 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 No, 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 no. Got my eyes up on Good Morning America on the monitor here in studio. Super Bowl ad sneak peek. No, no, no. We wait till Sunday like God intended. You don't get Super Bowl ad sneak peek now. Good Morning America. Kaylee Hartung, Baton Rouge's own. Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Welcome aboard. Got a busy hour for you this hour. We've got D.C. Current coming up later on this hour. Congressman Troy Carter going to be on the hotline. We're talking about job growth. The U.S. Labor Secretary was in Congressman Carter's district yesterday. Now, if you're part of Congressman Carter's district that's here in Baton Rouge, not your part. He was down in New Orleans. I don't think he got carjacked. Growing jobs in Louisiana. We're talking about it later on. Also talking about the ongoing cover-up, or the state police cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. Chris Nakomoto joins us at 8:15 to talk about that. Going to get you to this day in history in just a minute, but I have asked the question on our YouTube page. This is one of those evergreen topics that people can bring up every year. Who's got the best king cake in Baton Rouge? And I repeat that question now because we're still taking your feedback here. I want to hear about the one that I haven't heard about before, honestly. But might I throw in a contender here? and it might be an underrated contender. It might be one that you haven't thought to look to for king cakes in the past. That's Methurn's Market. You'll find them downtown on 3rd Street. You will find them on Nicholson, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Y'all, we don't do the non-traditional king cakes in the Haldane house very often. We like it traditional. We like a good old-fashioned cinnamon king cake with the icing on top. We like. I'd like to have that baby already in the king cake, so I'm just as surprised when we find it. But there's a king cake at Methurn's. Why do I sound like the voiceover guy from Oak Island? There's a king cake. There's a king cake at Methurn's. And it's a wedding cake king cake. And it is beyond decadent. It is a game changer. Buttercream icing stuffed in the middle. It's iced over the top of it. Almonds sprinkled across the top. I don't do the non-traditional king cake often. But if I do, you better believe that I'm going to experience the rest of what Methurn's has to offer in this regard. Oh, by the way, they're a full-service grocery store as well. Oh, by the way, parades are coming up in a couple weeks. You're going to want to swing by to grab a couple 6-packs of beer before you hit the route. Yeah, we treat parading just like we treat tailgating, and Methurn's is your headquarters. Downtown on 3rd Street or right across the street from Tiger Stadium on Nicholson and the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Oh, by the way, you got that Winn-Dixie closing down on Burbank? If you shopped at that Winn-Dixie, maybe make your way back towards campus. Your new home for groceries, Methurn's, right across from Tiger Stadium. Time for this day in history, Jake. Let's hit it.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great day so far. We're starting things off. So, Brian, if you don't remember, let me clue you in real quick. A couple days ago, I mentioned that Queen Elizabeth I decided to have her sister, or cousin, if I'm not mistaken, the Queen of Scots, Mary, to be assassinated. Do you remember that?
Somewhat.
Well, in 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, is beheaded. Aged 44.
Oh, not the current queen.
No.
Okay, that was going to get weird. I was
No.
I watched The Crown.
No, this was back...
we need a new season of The Crown.
Yeah, back over yonder. So it turns out Mary, Queen of Scots, was plotting to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I. So, yeah, that's why that all happened. 1802, Simon Willard. He patents the banjo clock.
No.
Yes.
No, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying the banjo clock should not be a thing.
I love it. It's great. 1926, Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio becomes Walt Disney Studios.
Cool!
1960, Boston Celtics Bill Russell becomes the first NBA player with 50 rebounds in a single game. He got 51.
Nice.
1975, Pete
It's nice to get the
Maravich.
record, but still leave some room to break the record again, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to see somebody blast the record out of the water to where no one's ever going to touch it.
Shout out to Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
1975, Pete Maravich scores 47 points as the New Orleans Jazz end a 28-game NBA road losing streak.
Yeah, they
with
did.
a 106-102 win over the Hawks in Atlanta.
Who Maravich would eventually play for as well.
1994, Jack Nicholson uses a golf club to attack a car.
I remember that.
That must have been fun.
Yeah.
1998, the 48th NBA...
I mean, not if you were in the car.
No, probably not.
No. I mean, you get the guy from The Shining beating your car up with a golf club. Here's Johnny.
When did that movie come out?
70, 71, somewhere up in there. Early 70s.
70s.
Don't make me look this up.
No, there's no way it's in the 70s.
It's The Shining?
The Shining.
All right, let's take a look. You keep going. I'll look it up.
Well, in 1998, the 48th NBA All-Star Game took place in Madison Square
80.
Garden. It was 80?
1980.
Okay, there's no way I could believe it's the 70s. I mean, 1 year off, but crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I have a quiz for you.
Okay.
98, 48th NBA All-Star Game. It was in Madison Square Garden. The East beat the West 135-114. Who was the MVP? Of
Michael Jordan.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
That's all the events. You got any for me before I get over to
No,
the
I have birthdays and deaths.
Okay. Well, then let's get right to the birthdays. First up, we have Klay Thompson turning 32.
Yeah, we do.
Julio Jones, 33.
Yep.
Anderson .Paak, 36.
I guess that he plays soccer balls.
No, he's a phenomenal musician.
Anderson .Paak?
Yeah.
Who is he?
You should look him up.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Or I could just ask you.
He's a very good R&B rap artist. He's very...
All right.
He's a drummer first.
All
so
right.
his beats are very, very, very original.
Fair enough.
John Williams turns 90. We mentioned this earlier. I guess I got it mistaken.
No.
John Williams is 90 now.
We were, when we talked about John Williams, we were talking about a different John Williams, and the conversation transferred over to Star Wars John Williams. Remember that? Remember, it was John P. Williams.
Yes.
Yeah. It was the doctor. We were talking about cancer awareness.
Shout out to Dr. John Williams, and also shout out to John Williams, the John Williams. Seth Greene turns 48.
Yes, he does.
Shout out to Robot Chicken. Kimbo Slice.
What is Seth Green's connection to Louisiana?
Oh, God, I have no idea.
This is so before your time.
Yeah.
So before Seth Greene was Dr. Evil's son, well before that, right? He used to be in a Rally's commercial. Saints fans, old school Saint, not too old school, not like Condon old school Saints fans, like my generation olds. Remember the whole cha-ching? Remember that Rally's the series of Rally's commercials? Well, there was a time where the Saints adopted that as their, they didn't replace Who Dat, but you had the cha-ching all over the Superdome. They brought Seth Greene into New Orleans, into the Dome, to do the cha-ching thing a couple times at one of the games, and it went over really well. Gotta love rallies.
See, I learned something new just now.
Yeah, you did.
And then finally, Guy Manuel de Homem Cristo, 48 years old. He's actually one half of Daft Punk.
Okay.
Yep. You thought I was going to say soccer player, didn't you?
I actually did. Then Guy Manuel something. Yes.
Yes.
Also Ted Koppel's 82 today.
Happy birthday.
And you covered the rest. Oh! And a New Orleans Saint, Ken Crawley.
Ooh, very nice. You got any more for me before we get on to the next?
Nope.
I don't have deaths, but you said you had one. What you got?
I actually have two. It was on this day, I believe, in 2007. Anna Nicole Smith found dead on the floor of a hotel lobby.
Oof.
Yeah. And Connie Mack, legendary baseball player Connie Mack, passed away on this day at 93 years old.
Rest in peace to both those mentioned holidays. Laugh and get rich day.
Okay. Well, you're halfway there.
Yes, we'll see what happens the rest of today. National Boy Scout Day. Shout out to Boy Scouts. And Propose Day. It's Propose Day. Get married, I guess. Good for you.
The shout-outs sound awkward once. A shout-out to Boy Scouts?
Yeah. Shout out to them, man. I used to be a Boy Scout when I was
that's just
a child.
Weird.
How is that weird?
You
made it weird.
No, the shouting out is just... we're okay.
All right.
We're having a good time.
Fine.
Quick break. When we come back, let's talk to Chris Nakomoto next. Hey there, little boys. How are you? Nori says Calandro's Mississippi Mud King Cake. I've heard. I haven't had it yet. Rouse's cream cheese. Way too sweet. All right. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. Some people can't go the full sweet route. You need Nakamoto's phone number?
Wonderful. It's Talk 107.3. How you doing this morning? Doing well, thanks. We're going to be live just about a minute. You ready for us? Awesome. We'll patch you through. We'll get you on, okay? Thank you. Please hold.
818. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, if you got a couple hours and would like some really intriguing reading, I recommend visiting WBRZ's website. Chris Nakomoto and the investigative unit all over this story, talking about the cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. The headline at WBRZ reads, "I can't keep ignoring the issue." Text between the governor and supporters and others amid state police cover-up of Ronald Greene's death. Joining us now to talk about it is Chris Nakomoto. Chris, welcome back. How are you, man?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
No, always glad to have you on here. Always appreciate the insight and the hard work that goes into it. So there's a lot to unpack here. I haven't read all of everything yet, but I'm a good chunk into the text messages to be sure. So what were your immediate takeaways? What did you discover?
I think the biggest thing is that there were key members of Governor John Bel Edwards' staff that were in direct communication with the people who were making decisions about the case. We're talking about the U.S. Attorney in Shreveport. We're talking about John Belton, the district attorney up in the Monroe area. And we're talking about the governor's right-hand legal counsel, the executive counsel for the governor's office, actively involved in communicating with all of these people in the days, if not weeks, following Ronald Greene's death. And in the months after, as multiple stories were airing, they were obviously trying to clean up an image problem. For those of your listeners who aren't aware, Ronald Greene, of course, is a name that we've heard time and time again over the last 2 years. He was a black motorist up in the Monroe area who had led state police on a high-speed chase. When he came to a stop, body camera video showed that he was brutally beaten by state troopers who were on the scene. That narrative did not fit what state troopers working that night told the family. They said that he had died in a crash. And then, of course, we obviously see the body camera video of what actually happened to him. So that happened in May of 2019. It's coming up on 3 years. Mm-hmm. And nothing has happened to really the troopers who were involved in the case. We've exposed extraordinary lies. The highest-ranking trooper on scene that night had lied about his body camera video. It was entered into the system. It was mislabeled. And he actually told the investigating trooper who was looking into Greene's death that no body camera video existed. And, of course, we know that that's a lie because his body camera miraculously showed up last year. Giving people a whole nother vantage point of what actually happened to Ronald Greene.
So this is most of what I've read is not as definitive and cut and dry, but does suggest certain things. So help me sift through what would be a clear-cut proof of a lie versus confirmation bias. Like, were there specific examples you saw within that just really come to the forefront?
Well, last week the governor was adamant in his news conference that he had absolutely nothing to do with the investigation. He said, it's categorically false that he had anything to do with it. Now we're seeing all these text messages that show not only was he aware of things that were happening every step of the way, but also his staff were doing things, communicating with the decision makers, communicating with the U.S. attorney, communicating with the district attorney. If his office doesn't have anything to do with it, why are they talking to the prosecuting authorities? Does that make sense to anybody?
No, but at the same time, okay, let me ask it this way then. Is there anything in this that is convictable? Like, we can all make our own decision based off of what we see, but is there anything that's going to be the trump card in a court of law?
Not that we've seen, but what we've seen is they were actively involved in communicating with one another, talking about this case. I mean, is there, in terms of a smoking gun where they say don't prosecute, we didn't see any of that in the messages, no. Okay. But in terms of them having an being actively involved in the case every step of the way, we're seeing tons of messages where they were communicating with all the people that were making decisions.
WBRC's Chris Nakomoto is our guest. And I guess where you're going with this, Chris, and I completely agree with you, by the way, is the difference between interference and awareness. Because a lot of what the governor had to say at his press conference last week had to do with, I had no idea about any of it until ... Now, you can follow up with, I wasn't going to interfere with state police, and that's a completely different discussion. What's in these text messages strongly suggests he did have that level of awareness.
That's right. And, you know, the governor last year went on the radio in September saying that many of the allegations of a cover-up are overblown and false. Well, we're seeing that one of the lawyers in his office was saying, that excuse isn't going to age well with the public. And I had the opportunity to ask the governor about that, and he didn't really answer the question last week about whether or not he still stands by those statements. I think clearly he did say, though, it's pretty clear that now that we've seen what happened, that Ronald Greene didn't die in the crash. He was alive.
Right.
So from that vantage point, you know, we are seeing, you know, kind of people walking back some of the comments that were made previously.
Who's most interesting to you here? You've read most, if not all, of the text messages. Who are you following the closest with this that looks like it's going to be the beginning of the peeling back of the Band-Aid, if you will?
I think it's just interesting to see what was on the governor's phone, seeing that he was aware within hours of Ronald Greene dying. Of course, the Associated Press published that the week before the governor held that news conference last week, that text message. We're seeing that he was briefed every step of the way as new revelations came out about the case. We're also seeing his attorney, his executive counsel. In the news conference, I had asked him, who was the one that made the decision to have the U.S. attorney issue a press release saying that, you know, the governor's office didn't have any sort of meddling in the Ronald Greene case? And they said that that was the executive counsel. That's Matthew Block. We're seeing Matthew Block's name all over these text messages where he was in communication well before last week with the U.S. attorney, with all the parties that be, talking about the Greene case. And again, can't strive enough that if the governor's office has nothing to do with the case and seeking justice for what happened or trying to stop whatever's happening, why are they in such close contact with the decision makers? I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think today maybe they need to explain why they were in such close contact with all the powers that be, with the prosecutors, if they had nothing to do with what's happened thus far.
Another good question. WBRC's Chris Nakomoto is our guest. Chris, this is neither here nor there, but I can't help but notice as I scroll through them, amongst all these text messages is a stack of links back to WBRC's website. So this kind of lends to where you've been at on this case from the start. Right from the jump, when you click on the governor's texts, the very first one, your name is the first thing mentioned. Nakomoto exclusive is the first thing that's mentioned throughout this. So as you've been able to sift through this, is the timeline of, I don't want to say your investigation because it's about the case. It's not about your investigation, but is the timeline of how things have come to the public so far from 2019 till now matching up with the timeline of how all of the conversations converge on one another? Not to ask you to create like an overall Venn diagram of everybody's individual texts, but is everything matching up that things were playing out through all positions, or is there anyone that's allowing themselves for a plausible deniability here?
Here's what I think is most interesting. Okay, Ronald Greene didn't just die in May of 2019, and then we got to where we're at today, and it's been almost 3 years and nothing's happened. From May of 2019 until today, there have been active text messages going between people within the governor's staff, people between the prosecuting authorities, and everybody involved. Everybody was being briefed every step of the way. People were having meetings. A lot of the stuff they didn't want to put in writing. They would say, free for a quick call, free for a quick call. What were the nature of those conversations? What was being discussed? And why were they communicating so much if they had nothing to do with the way the investigation was turning out? In terms of all the people that were involved in Ronald Greene's death, the only one who had any action taken against him is the whistleblower, Carl Cavalier.
Yeah.
Carl Cavalier was fired for coming to do an interview about bringing Albert Paxton's notes. Albert Paxton was the investigating detective on the Ronald Greene case, and we heard him at the Capitol just before Christmas saying he had to quit his career because state police turned on him when he wouldn't participate in the cover-up, the lie, or hiding evidence. So he's gone, and now Carl Cavalier, who spoke up about the wrongdoing, is gone. Yet you have these other troopers that were there that night that hid their body camera video, lied about body camera video, and nothing has happened to them. And that is why the public is so upset. We're going through thousands of pages of emails we also received. People in this community are mad. People across the state are mad. And they were emailing the governor's office, telling them how upset they were that nothing had happened in this case. At the end of the day, everybody should be treated fairly. And if you did this to somebody, chances are it wouldn't drag out 3 years. There'd probably be a trial already. You'd probably be arrested, and you can't get away with anything like that. And so I think that is where the public is outraged. They don't like to see that it appears that maybe special treatment's being given because these are law enforcement officers that were involved. But one thing that was interesting was Clary, it's a documented lie that he hid his body camera video by Albert Paxton. Well, when they did the internal affairs investigation into that lie, they said they couldn't substantiate it because the investigating detectives would not participate in the internal affairs interviews. Well, on the administrative side, if they're not going to participate in the administrative affairs interviews, why are they not turning it into a criminal investigation if they're literally if Clary was hiding his evidence? I mean, it certainly would appear that at minimum is, malfeasance in office. I mean, if you're a public official and you go hide something, to conceal the truth, you're not doing your job. And clearly these videos miraculously turned up almost 2 years after he had told the detective they didn't exist. So who's telling the truth here? The person who's leaving because they're saying that they wouldn't participate in the cover-up and state police turned on them? Or is it the person that has these videos that turn up a year and a half, almost 2 years later, and is still at work?
Big time.
I mean, I think the public can read between the lines there on what actually the truth is.
Okay, and I got one more for you before we let you go, and I greatly appreciate your time this morning, Chris. And that is, how do we get from, or what are the next steps, getting from reading between the lines to something definitive coming from this, something actionable coming from this? Because I think a lot of us are on the same page of, if you see gaps of 10 days between a question being asked and not being answered via text, you just assume that a phone call was made. You see a number of texts of, do you have a moment for a quick call? How do we get to fill in all the blanks from here?
I think filling in the blanks would be a decision by the federal authorities. Are they going to prosecute? And if they're not going to prosecute, they need to come out and say, we're not going to prosecute. We're not going to indict. But if they are, what is the holdup? It's 3 years. Body camera videos were paid for by taxpayers so that they could show the truth. And if that truth, the video doesn't lie, right?
Right.
And so if those body camera videos are supposedly telling the truth, I think the public deserves to know what is taking so long.
How much more y'all got to read?
We are about halfway through all the emails that we got. We did the dump on the website where if you want to read all the text messages, they're on WBRZ.com, so everybody can read those messages. But we're about halfway through the thousands of emails that we got. And so we're still combing through those. And we intend to do the exact same thing that we did with the messages and put all the emails online for people to read.
It is an overwhelming amount of information that's out there, but the output's only as good as the input. The input is growing by the minute. He is WBRZ's Chris Nakomoto. Dude, thank you so much for hopping on board this morning, and I'm glad you're reading them because thousands of emails. No, I'm not dialing in on that.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Always, Chris. Appreciate it. We're super late for news. We missed our CBS news. Let's hit our local news, traffic, and weather next. This is not going to end well for the governor. These gaps in communication. Byron says, I'll say it. I never liked king cake. It's an inferior dessert. I don't even know you. It's like I don't even know you this morning. My heavens. The hell is Rosh Bakehouse? Is that a thing? Look at this. Happy Carnival. We're not taking orders for pick up. Ooh, look at sold out, and they're affordable if they were in town or if they were in stock. All right, I'm gonna hang on to that one. That might be worthwhile. Oh, tomorrow. So we're going to have the Jeopardy dude on. Got Franz on. We got Congressman Graves on. I don't have an 8:15 redistricting segment yet. That, like, we were supposed to do redistricting in the last segment, but this Ronald Greene stuff kind of trumped it. But on top of that, though, every freaking legislator that I contacted yesterday, and I could tell you it was more than 24 legislators yesterday, every single one of them is in a meeting right now with the governor. So I'm looking for some news to break later today. I don't know what yet. Is this a desperation move? Does the governor see the writing on the wall that he's not going to get what he wants? Is the governor about to lay out that the Blake Patterson at The Advocate did a report about how the maps that Republicans are proposing do not meet the requirements of the Voting Rights Act? And then he goes on within his same story to say it doesn't matter because nothing in Louisiana could meet the Voting Rights Act. So this is all going to end up in court, and everything they're doing right now is probably going to take till the next census before it gets settled. Oh, yeah. No, the labor secretary was in town yesterday. This is a house. This is a residence. I'm gonna check back in about a week or so, see if they're still sold out. Okay, Troy says Nanette Mayhall. So this is another one that's out of their house. Is that what Baton Rouge does? Like, I grew up, we'd just go to Mackenzie's, right? And then, like, Randazzo's took over the world, and then Dong Fong did his thing. But, like, you got to go to somebody, you got to, like, know a person in Baton Rouge. Still, Methards. What have I not done yet? Muya? 838 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. I mean, so much to unpack from that story from Chris Nakomoto. But we don't have time for it right now because we've got a lot to unpack from Congressman Troy Carter, who joins us just about every Tuesday at this time. I mean, unless the business of our nation gets more pressing than this radio show. He's Congressman Troy Carter. Welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
Good morning, Brian. How are you, man? Always good to be with you.
No, glad to have you on here. I got to start with Marty Walsh, the U.S. Labor Secretary in New Orleans yesterday. How'd that go?
It was incredible. I mean, it was a great opportunity to have the Secretary come in, he and Deputy Secretary Sue. It was a very, very productive meeting. We met with students at Delgado Community College. We had roundtable discussions with business people talking about the importance of investing in our workers and creating safety zones to make sure we're creating good economies and training people when they're ready for the workforce. You know, one of the most significant things is what you might imagine. When we have these disasters, we have people right here in Louisiana that are skilled, that can be a part of the recovery, but oftentimes we turn to out-of-town interest, or people come in from other places and gobble those jobs up. And a part of this resiliency discussion is making sure that we are training and giving Louisiana people the opportunity to participate in rebuilding of Louisiana after these natural disasters. So it was very refreshing to have the Secretary here on the ground. We had a series of town hall meetings where he had a chance to listen, not just talk, but to listen to the concerns of the workers of Louisiana. And I think it was very productive. I'm very honored and pleased that, you know, we've had now 8 cabinet secretary visits to Louisiana since I've been in Congress, in addition to the President of the United States himself. So I'm very honored by that.
Yeah, it's notable, to say the least. Let's pick up on that, though. Do Louisiana workers not, or do the Louisiana companies not have the opportunities to get involved after a natural disaster, or do we not have the wherewithal, or do we not follow the right steps? Like, is this a matter of changing policy or changing awareness?
I think it's a combination of both. I think the bigger part is to make it deliberate, you know, to have a conscious effort to utilize, you know, Louisiana talent. Just like we're going to talk a little later on the program about the Competes Act. The Competes Act is moving its way through the Congress now, and it does the same thing, but on a national level, that we start looking inwards to do more business, manufacturing, and other in America. Made America Proud, creating jobs and creating semiconductors and investing some $45 billion into, you know, really going after recreating and strengthening the American economy by shopping and building in America. And the same thing that we're promoting with Louisiana is to use the people in Louisiana. It's only fair and right, particularly when we have such a strong labor force of people that have the skill sets to build and construct, that we create that opportunity for the people that have been devastated the most.
Yeah, it might sound counterintuitive on the front end to say if you're reeling from a hurricane, you know, to have your own people help, it makes more. on its surface, it makes more sense. Bring in the help, get everybody back on their feet. But in reality, the truth is, if New Orleans gets hit, Lake Charles can help. If Lake Charles gets hit, New Orleans can help. And
That's right.
no matter how you break it down, Baton Rouge could step in at some point as well. So there's no reason to go outside of the boot, as it were.
That's right. And if you think about it from that standpoint also, Brian, if you figure the person that is devastated, they lost their home, they still wake up Monday morning, they got to do something.
Yeah.
You still got to wake up Monday morning, and you still got to feed your family. You still have to earn a living. You still have to rebuild. So the greatest step to that is, give a person a hammer or saw, an opportunity to be a part of the solution while earning a living and getting back on their feet.
Congressman Troy Carter is our guest. We call it DC Current. We do this every week. Congressman, you mentioned the Competes Act. Let's unpack that a little bit further, because when it comes to a visit like this with Marty Walsh coming to town yesterday, I'm looking for tangibles. I'm looking for the next steps as to what can actually get done. The Competes Act plays into that. So walk us through a little bit more of what that brings to the table.
Well, what the Competes Act is, it's a comprehensive package of bills that will power the American worker, give our business economy a strengthened position right here at home. We have all these products that we import from China, that we import from other places. What this bill does is authorize $45 billion to fix a broken supply chain by building more critical components here in America. We think about our capacity to prevent shortage and disruption. What if we didn't have to wait for it to come from overseas? What if we didn't have to depend on foreign interests? What if we were able to manufacture those things right here in America, keep the money in America, employ the people of America, and never find ourselves in a position where we are so beholden to anybody else? That's the way America used to be, and that's how we should be again. We should be able to look inward to the American worker to create jobs, create opportunities, and reduce our dependency to foreign money and foreign manufacturing. And that's what the Competes Act does. And I'm proud to say that many, many components of the Competes Act is, again, an example of bipartisanship, where both sides of the aisles are working together to recognize how to get this over the goalposts. And like any legislation, you're going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have yings and yangs, but there are significant portions of the Competes Act that is, in fact, strongly supported by both sides.
Honestly, it sounds a lot like what a number of things that Donald Trump tried to do in his first year and a half in office, that bringing back manufacturing, bringing back skilled labor, bringing back things that have been shifted overseas for so long. This sounds like, on its surface, I'm sure once we get into the nitty-gritty we'll find differences, but it sounds on its surface very similar in concept.
Well, I don't think anybody has a patent on ideas. I think in theory, many people have said that they want to do this. The question becomes, can you put together the leadership to get it done? It has been a talking point for many years to strengthen the American worker, So I don't know that it's a proprietary thought. It's one that's been around, but the action, the difference between theory and practice and thought and action is where we need to be to take those ideas, like the infrastructure plan. That was talked about also for many, many, many Congresses, but it took the 117th Congress to finally get it done. So it's a matter of having not just the idea, but also the will and the leadership to bring people that sometimes don't always agree to the table to do what's best for the American people, and that's what the Competes Act attempts to do. And I'm proud to say doing it with bipartisan support.
Yeah, that's the reason I bring it up is it's not a new idea. It's if it's a good idea, you're going to hear it more than once. That's
exactly right. And listen, the president of the Louisiana State Senate, who's a dear friend of mine, when I served in the Senate, John Lario, would always come over when someone, I pushed a minimum wage bill every year to try and increase wages for workers. And each year, I believe this was the year it was going to pass, and unfortunately, as you know, it never has passed. Right. But he would come over and put his hand on my shoulder and say, Senator, good bills sometimes take years before they pass. Bad bills, they pass the very first time.
It's so frustrating and so true.
It's so frustrating. So, these good ideas, albeit whoever should have them, oftentimes in this democratic process that we have that requires, the requisite amount of votes to go through both chambers, to be vetted by, 535 members. That's a lot of battery. That's a big battery of tests, a lot of sausage making, if you will.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, we should come with a product that has the benefit of having all aspects of our country represented.
Got Congressman Troy Carter oh goodness, we've only got 2 more minutes. I've got to skip to the bottom of the page here and ask you a question about something your office has got going on right now. Congressman Troy Carter, the press release as of less than an hour ago, kicking off your inaugural Black History Month essay contest for high school students. What's this all about, and how can kids get involved?
Well, I'm very excited about this. This is an opportunity for us to speak to the next generation of leaders and dreamers, black, white, or other. This is open to 10th and 11th graders. We're asking students to submit an essay sharing their dream for a brighter, more just future. We all know that Martin Luther King had his famous "I Have a Dream," and it was powerful. It was one that shaped so many enormous ideas and changes in our world. But, now it's been 59 years since then. So I want to hear from our young people in the 2nd Congressional District. Tell me, what is it that you dream? How do you see our world evolving, a world that's more harmonious, a world that recognizes differences as strength and not as weaknesses, a world that envisions and contemplates the kind of inclusion that will make us a better world, one that recognizes the importance of coexistence. And so what this opportunity does is a way on multiple fronts. One is to highlight unity, to give our young people an opportunity to exercise their writing skill by writing an essay that will spell out their thoughts for the future. And as a result of it, we will present them with a certificate of accomplishment, and we will have them come to the nation's capital to get that presentation and shadow me and my staff here at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and have them an opportunity to come meet other members of Congress, to take an in-depth tour of the Capitol and other sites here in D.C. And the whole thing is geared toward getting our young people involved in the process, having them understand the importance of civic engagement, civic involvement, and utilizing this Black History Month as a way to highlight the great works of Dr. King while involving our young people in the process of expressing themselves through writing.
It's open until March 8th. 6 p.m. Central Time is when you'll have the closing of this contest. And yes, Congressman, I can tell you firsthand, we went to took the family to Washington, D.C. last summer for our vacation, and I have a 9th grader. And when her eyes were open to the machine that is, and the possibilities of actually getting yourself involved, it's inspiring to see a flame get lit like that.
Yes, and let me tell you, when kids come, and I'll tell you, when I walk down the street every day and I'm going to work and I see the big dome Capitol, I mean, it's motivating. It's energizing. It's the seat of power. It is the strength of America, the love of a country that we love that means so much to us. And to get our young people to understand early on the significance of it, maybe it'll breed in them the desire to be further involved civically or for elective office. But one thing we at a minimum hopes it does is to continue to ignite the flame of protection of country, protection of community, protection of self, and that everyone, regardless of your walk of life, we all have a role to play in promoting safety, harmony, love, and a safe community. That's the role that we all have, regardless of what your chosen endeavor is. We have a responsibility to each other to protect the environment, to protect ourselves, to protect the community, to have a strong educational system and a solid defense. And in order to do that, we have to love the country and understand the rule of law, understand how the system works. And this is my opportunity to expose as much of it as possible to our young people.
He is Congressman Troy Carter. We visit every Tuesday at about this time. Congressman, I appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a fantastic week.
You too. We'll talk next week. Quick break, coming back to close it out next. All right, so basically I'm just going to do 3 live reads in the last segment and call it a day. Okay. Hey, can you pull up on YouTube In Living Color theme song? Yeah. Make sure it's through any pre-roll, and then I'll. Put season 3 in queue. I want to hear it. Yeah, I've never heard that one. I don't. Yep. That's the one I want. That's the one I want. Do what? Yep. Yep. Be ready. Okay. Mooyah, Hope Ministries, and the Treasurer's Office. Yeah.
This will be a one-time thing. Hopefully the person who does the live reads next time won't do
They had a computer issue yesterday. It's not their fault. Yeah, they had to. It had to get forced through.
Do you want it on YouTube?
Yeah, why not? Let's see if it goes through.
It'll go through.
Oh, God. My throat hurts just hearing that. This is a lot. We went way too long with the congressman.
Yeah, we had a really good message to share at the end.
Yeah, it's gonna go. How you living? What? How you living? What? How you living? What? In living color. About 3 seconds worth of the theme after that, and then bring it down and let me talk over it. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, about to close things out here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Thanks again to Congressman Carter for talking about the labor pool, talking about the job market, talking about getting back involved post-pandemic, if you will. I know we're still in it, but getting back involved with the workforce. By the way, talk about that workforce crisis coming up in early March. Rise LA is on the way. Rise LA. You want to learn how to get out of that cycle, that revolving door when it comes to your especially low and middle income employees. Get your company where profits are on the increase, on the upswing, and bring a number of people off of welfare as well. It can be done. Fred Keller's the founder and chair of Cascade Engineering. He got it done in his business. I mean, he changed the game. You could learn his ways. You could be his Padawan. Visit risela.biz, risela.biz to learn more, or call 355-0702, Rise LA. We all rise together. Looking ahead to tomorrow's show, got a big one for you. We got attorney Franz Borghardt's going to be in for Legally Served. We have got, there's an LSU student on Jeopardy this afternoon. Check out Jeopardy on WBRZ this afternoon. He'll be on with us tomorrow morning at 7:15. We'll have Congressman Garrett Graves at 7:35. I don't yet have a check-in on the redistricting session yet, but that's in the works. And then, looking forward to this one, 8:40 tomorrow morning.
How you living? What? 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 How you living? What?
Is that on loop? There it is. Tommy Davidson joining the show tomorrow. I'm hyped about this one. The cavalcade of B-list celebrities, the Wall of Fame continues. We got Tommy Davidson tomorrow. Longtime member of the cast of In Living Color, longtime stand-up comedian. You might remember him from Ace Ventura 2. He's the one that fought Ace Ventura in the ring. I didn't know the Wachati were biters. That's Tommy Davidson. He's going to be on with us tomorrow morning. Also, actor Aiden Quinn going to join the show for a YouTube-only segment tomorrow. We got a lot of fun coming your way. I mean, we're talking Jeopardy, we're talking In Living Color, and a whole lot more. Hey, before we get out of here this morning, got to remind you about lacashclaim.org. lacashclaim.org. If you've not yet visited the website, you need to. Oh, you could have money just sitting there waiting for you to take it back. It's yours. The state's got over $900 million of our money, your money, my money, just sitting there. Deposits that were paid and left behind, bank accounts that turned over. Maybe you left a retirement account on the table when you left a job. It's all available at lacashclaim.org. All you got to do is go and enter your name, possibly your zip code, punch it in, see what's what. Punch in your family member's name. Be a hero to your family by getting them paid as well. lacashclaim.org. That's going to do it for us today. The Fox News Rundown's coming your way next here on Talk 107.3. Watch. Some ass is going to point out that I mixed up the Wachutu and the Wachati. It was the Wachutu, dumbass! I don't remember which one was which. Chicago. Excuse me. Your balls are showing.
Bumblebee tuna.
The Great White Bat has great white guano. God, I missed that movie. Yeah, that was Tommy Davidson. Anyway, I don't even remember what we're talking about with Tommy Davidson. Also, Aiden Quinn's going to be after the show tomorrow. We are going to have a ton of fun. Oh, sweet. We'll see you tomorrow, y'all. I got a meeting with a potential new sponsor for the show. So, later, taters.